Hello and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio. I am your host, Andrew. I am coming in hot as I forgot to change everyone's pictures from last week because I've been getting a lot more lax with requiring people to send me their photos that they want to use, and I've just been using their Twitter photos because it's faster that way. And I'm in the process of doing that right now to get myself... perfect. We're all set up now. Speaking of all set up, who else is all set up? Our first guest, who you may know from issue 15 of Indiepocalypse with Winter, and it's Freya. Hello, Freya. How you doing?
Hello, Andrew. I'm doing okay. I am all set up, as you say, with tea and nothing else.
Well, you don't really need much else, I think, except for tea and you to be here.
I also forgot to send my profile picture for the stream, so that is my fault that you're having to scramble around on Twitter for that.
No, I've already got it. Because I posted them all already, so I just, instead of going to my Indiepocalypse profile picture folder, which is handy because then I put everyone's names and pronouns and titles in it, so should I need to acquire them all later, I look at this face, I'm like, who is this? And the file name is this person's name, so I know exactly who this is. So I don't have to memorize the face of everyone people I have never met before. But anyway.
But anyway,
that's all well and beside the point. I'm just going to get this out of the way now because there was one question from Big Hand in Sky, which is, if you had to pick any other zine printed to web to do an Indiepocalypse joint thing with, which one would you pick? And I will say, watch for the middle of the month in some coming month. It's on its way. You may have seen my vague tweets about collaborations in the past. There is a collaboration that was actually my dream collaboration even. That it was a random email I sent that was like, here's a dream collaboration of something that I really like, and to make something that I really like, and I want to do it, and it was very easy to do, actually. Turns out people like to make stuff. Speaking of people...
That is the big, people just like making stuff.
I
see. Galaxy brain take, but it's very true.
Right. The other Galaxy brain take I've learned about is people do work when you pay them. They love to make stuff when you pay them as well.
Hell yeah. I will... That is a very good segue into, I guess, that is why I am here.
Yes, you are here because you are one of the new thing for, let's call it Indiepocalypse. Year 2 is I decided to start commissioning artists to also make one unique game per issue to get those hot exclusives that the gamers crave. And listen, last month, I'm going to say it worked. It worked big time. The very first issue to reach the much coveted break-even point was issue number 15, which you were a part of, and I think a big part of also, I have to imagine.
You know what? It surprised me because I always got the sense from kind of having known the Indiepocalypse name that surely that must be breaking even. Surely Andrew is diving into his little gold pond of coins.
Okay, yes. I just I put on my tiny glasses, my shirt with no pants, and I dive right in and swim around in my giant vault that I keep in a big building that just has a dollar sign on it. No, I think even if I did it like a publisher, where it was I took 100% of the profits until it broke even, I don't think really any of the issues would have broken. Still only maybe half of them would have broken even at this point. It does not make very much money, but
it does make a lot of love.
That's what I actually for the very first time with this next issue, because I keep a search option I keep a search bar of Indiepocalypse kind of stuff. And for the first time someone accepted, they said, I can't believe I got accepted. I'm very excited. And that is all very strange to me, but I guess that makes sense. That eventually it would be seen as an institution, you know?
That noble institution of Indiepocalypse.
Yeah, it's
Actually, I was surprised it was like just you running it. It was like, oh, Indiepocalypse. That must be a big thing.
No.
Must be a team.
welcome to the team. You're talking to the team right now.
Andrew Indiepocalypse.
Yes, yeah. That's why. I mean, it's part of why I don't have. Besides, I don't like to use Twitter, and it's why I don't have. And also because Indiepocalypse was taken, and like I try to. It's why there's no like logo or distinct like cover or like title treatment. It's because it's not a brand, you know. It's just me. It's a thing I'm putting together. It's
Anti-brand.
right, exactly. I am very anti-brand. If I have blocked you on Twitter, it's probably because you feel too much like a brand or you're just unfunny. And really, everyone. Freya, how often do you block people on Twitter?
Oh, my block list is like 5 figures.
Ah, that's so beautiful. Listen, I learned it's weird that I came to this conclusion so late, considering I learned it so many years ago when I still use Facebook, where it's like, oh, you can just block anyone just because you just don't like to see them.
Just,
Nothing.
Sometimes it's someone doesn't even have to have done anything. It's just
Right.
like you just have bad vibes.
Yeah, or it's just
You're
like
gone.
you're unfunny one too many times. Like not even like unfunny in any offensive way. Just like I think you make bad jokes. It's like I can just block you, and I'd never have to see you again. It's a beautiful feeling. I've started blocking.
Freedom of being online.
Yeah, I've started blocking everyone who does those quote retweet homework things. Anyone who tries to create one, I just block them on site. And anyone who participates, that whichever the reason they come across my feed, I look at them like their thing on TweetDeck, and I think to myself, "You're on notice. I see these too many times. You fucking mute." Well, I guess I would mute them to be polite, because technically I'm already following them. But I hated those things like forever ago. I don't know. I was going to say that makes you feel old, but I think that makes you feel too young, because it feels like something an old person does.
Get off my lawn.
Right. Yeah, I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's just uncool people who, or maybe listen. It's all very whatever. People do the things that they like, and I just don't like them. That's not.
You can be proud to be a hater. It's fine. Like
Yeah.
I think reclaiming being a hater is a strong position.
Yeah, I was thinking. I've mentioned this multiple times. I think we really need to bring back not haterism, but more like we need like more active critiquing within indie games. I guess like you don't have to like everyone's stuff. I think, which is a weird thing.
I mean, I don't like everyone's stuff.
Right.
I mean, who does? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of distrustful of games that literally 100% of people like.
Yes. I may have blocked an account because I kept seeing people retweet it. I'm like, why is there like someone at this company that is friends with people? Because why else would everyone constantly be pushing this like very extremely average looking roguelike that if they did not hire Mushba, definitely owes them royalties for creative licenses. And yeah, I assume people are like, listen, I have some a peg to take with wholesomeness, and we need more.
Ooh.
We need more negativity. We need more negativity in games. We need more just like shit talking, and realizing that shit talking someone's work is not their individual as well. I want to let's create feuds about art. Maybe it'll ruin a couple friendships along the way, but it'll better the art form.
Gonna make a game that's a critical takedown of some work that just really annoys me.
I want to have a Truffaut Godard like falling out with somebody. But anyway,
That's your aim.
Exactly. Like after I have that, I've talked about it, I just want to be catty Orson Welles, where I'm just like, I hate everything, and I hate all these very clearly following consumerist trends in games kind of thing.
But you don't hate all of your wonderful Indiepocalypse submissions.
Oh, no, only like a good half of them are terrible. Somebody asked me recently, like, "Oh, how do you play all those games? You have to play them all." I'm like, "Yeah, I play them all, but like so many of enough of them, I'm like, these are so bad. I don't have to play them for more than 2 minutes. I know that they're no good. It's like I have to find like an eternal like gauge of like whether this is a shit post that's like whether this is a bad game or whether it's like a really clever shit post, and sometimes I can't tell."
Sometimes it's not a difference. Sometimes they are the same thing.
Yes, yeah. What is just like bad and mediocre, and what is like secretly Breen level genius?
Oh God, Breen! I've been watching the Breen retrospective, and it's
Okay.
it's like nearly 6 hour self-documentary. Yes. But seeing into the mind of that kind of like outsider art auteur,
yeah,
is fascinating and also deeply funny.
Yeah, so it must have been you. I saw someone posting about it. It must have been you. I was like, oh, I need this. Is fascinating and beautiful stuff. Because I think there was like wasn't there like a clip where it's like the editing was so bizarre.
Like there's a freeze frame.
Yes,
where
okay.
He's overdubbing, talking about motion.
Yes, that's what it was.
He likes having scenes with motion.
Yeah. Like
the entire clip is fucking freeze framed.
Right. It's like if he wasn't just clearly like a realtor who had money and wanted to make films, I consider him to be like an avant-garde genius. But obviously,
architect, not realtor.
Oh right. I knew it was something with houses.
Yeah. House adjacent.
Yeah, like maybe he is like maybe after like because how long has he been at it? Probably like 5, 6, maybe even 10 years or something.
I don't know. I'm gonna look that one up. I feel like it's like 10 years.
Yeah, so maybe
like
he's
2012. I mean, like I only found out about him like this year.
Right.
Or no, 2020. So.
Oh, what a.
No, I'm not a lifetime fan. Unfortunately, I can't claim that.
No.
2005.
So maybe he's realized like what he is. Maybe he is become like a lot more It's just hard to tell because after then you must be like somewhat self-aware of what you're making. You know, right?
I mean, you make different stuff if you're self-aware.
Yeah. Right.
Versus if you've got that kind of like naivety where it's just like, I'm just making a thing. And I believe in the thing.
But that motion clip leaves me lying awake at night thinking.
Oh, it gets better after that. Yeah. I haven't finished it, but it's well worth a watch.
You didn't marathon it in one day?
What? Not all 6 hours? No, I could stand it.
I have so many. I've been talking to a friend. I've had so many ambitions of this post-vax life, where we can finally hang out and watch the worst movies, because they're just like I've realized watching some by myself, they're just like not fun.
I think like fundamentally, the genre of films you can watch on your own and enjoy is really narrow compared to films you can just watch with a group. Yeah, there is like a very like I had recently watched Event Horizon for a friend and an unrelated thing I do with him, and I was like, this movie is like extremely mediocre, but I feel like he was like, oh, this movie is a stone cold classic, and I feel like if I had watched it with him, I could understand like being like, oh wait, this movie whips, but in watching it by myself, it's like, here's a bunch of people jumping at the camera in slow motion and very mediocre dialogue. But sometimes you need a kind of guiding light to see like what is excellent about this film. Yeah. Yes, you need like that companion, or it's like how else do you watch through all those like kaiju movies, and what else are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do if you're sitting by yourself and the humans start talking to each other?
about boring stuff, and I guess you just tune out, and then like suddenly you forget about the movies until Godzilla comes back and he like elbow drops Ghidorah or something.
You're like, oh fuck yeah, Godzilla! I can't remember what's happening.
Oh yeah, right.
Big lizard guy, sick.
Do you have any experience with kaiju or like tokusatsu at all? That whole
like physically in real life or in what?
Oh yeah, physically in real life. Have you done any tokusatsu work in your life?
Absolutely. You know, my before I got into games, I was fighting the forces of evil.
Oh! So you were actually doing it. You weren't. You weren't like the person in charge of putting all the sparks on people that shoot off whenever they get hit.
Would you? I mean, what kind of like support crew do you think they have off screen?
A lot of medical staff and pyrotechnic staff. Because from my experience, it's a lot of just like, from what I remember, of basically having only seen Power Rangers as a child, and seeing and admiring clips of it online of tokusatsu gifs, but like thinking to myself, oh, I could never actually watch these shows because these are good clips, but they're attached to like 20-minute episodes that are probably nowhere near as good as these like 5-second clips. And
I think if I was like 10 years old and it was a Saturday morning, it's like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Tuning in, switch on my old CRT TV, does that little pop and whine, and then there's like they're combining to beat up some kind of giant Mothman. Great, I'm into it,
Yeah.
Say no more.
I think that, I guess maybe that's the true problem, is that I grew up and I put away childish things and became an adult. And I don't have that I'm like, well, I don't have that infinite free time. And also I have, I don't know, it feels, what's the least condescending way to say I'm looking for something slightly better.
Meaty. Something meatier.
Right, but I'm not always, I don't always need a meaty work. I can enjoy like a breen or just like other like.
There's so much meat in a breen,
I mean, maybe there's too much meat in a breen. All those laptops, and I've thought about doing a Halloween costume once where I went as Neil Breen. Have you seen Fateful Findings?
Oh yes, like Robo Jesus, Neil Breen.
Yeah. I thought about it. Like, what if I did that? I got a bunch of old laptops from like a thrift shop, and I just
smashed them up.
Right, and I just carried around 3 laptops with me all day, and just like threw them around all over the place, always turned off. Yeah, I don't know. I think also it's easy to be tricked because I feel like we are in a true era of Arrested Development, where adults infinitely watch children's media, and sometimes children's media is children's media for a reason. And
I mean, yeah, like I'm not a kids show fan. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I can enjoy.
Sometimes I like a bit of nuance in my media,
Right. I can take I can enjoy some here and there, but because sometimes it's like, oh, this is like acceptable for children, but not like for children, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like the kind of the adult directed content is kind of like behind a layer or a metaphor, where if you're a young innocent kid, you're like, cool.
Yeah.
And if you're an adult, you're like, oh, it's secretly dark.
Right. Or even just like, yeah, like it's written with a certain kind of like they just wrote an adult thing, but they took out all the parts where they have sex and say the F word.
Yeah. Now they say dang or like blast.
Yeah. It's like I remember seeing how.
And in episode 12, finally the hero gets to kiss someone on the cheek.
I can't believe it. I forget who it was. There was a storyboard artist on Adventure Time. They were talking about like, I remember them posting a bunch of boards where I'm trying to place parts where Finn says fuck. It's like that was their storyboard version of it. They're like, well, we need to find a funnier version. But that show was also like a show of indie like artists and indie comic artists, so that makes sense. Like Michael DeForge works on that show, and like Penn Ward is his own thing anyway. But that's because I remember watching the Star Wars show because everyone's like, "Oh, that Star Wars show is so good," and I watched like the first episode. And I was like, "This is for literal babies. I can't watch this."
I haven't watched a Star Wars thing since The Last Jedi because everyone like I got spoiled on how fucking bad whatever the last film was on
Yeah.
Twitter, and I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I've seen my entire feed melting down about this. I don't think I'm going to watch it. And then I just I've not touched a Star Wars since.
I don't think when I remember like I was one of those let's rent Star Wars once a week kind of kids,
Mhm.
And then when I watched Rogue One, I was like, I don't think I like Star Wars anymore. Like, or not that it was like that bad, but it's more like, oh, I don't have franchise loyalty, as it turns out. As
You haven't sold your soul to Space Disney then.
right, like it's like, oh, as a concept, I don't think I have any allegiance to the IP. And the Last Jedi
You're
was
such a fake fan, Andrew.
I am a fake fan. I'm like, oh, The Last Jedi was good because Ryan Johnson's good. I like Brick,
Knives Out was great.
Knives Out was very good. Turns out if you give interesting directors the ability to make a film, they make more interesting movies. What a surprise!
What a surprise. You
I
give
feel-
someone the opportunity to make something, and they make something.
Yeah, I think they're coming at this. That was a very good quote, but like the executives at Disney rediscovering that you can make movies by like shooting them outside or something, or I forgot what it was, but he was like, "Oh, look, this isn't done. This is not green screen. This is real life. That's a real sunset." And it's like, fuck, dude. It's like tech bros inventing. It's like tech dudes inventing hotels.
Yeah. Oh my god, what if we make a kind of long car that lots of people get on and they all go to the same destination?
That actually
in this
sounds.
long car.
Freya, do you have a are you accepting VC money at this time for this long
I'll
car?
take VC money.
I would like to invest in your long car.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's going to explode if it touches a tree, and it'll only be able to drive on rails in a very thin tube.
I don't know about this long. I will sign on if it's long car, but spelled LNGCR.
Lunker.
Oh, but
Yeah, that works for me.
Perfect. I will accept your. Listen, here in the U.S., we could use a lot more long cars. Really.
Yeah, actually, I guess your long car situation is worse than the British long car situation, which is
But
they exist, but they're pricey.
yeah, but also, I mean, to be fair, like, what is the size of England compared to New England? Like, what are their size comparisons?
I think they're the same. I think maybe it's small.
Yeah, so, and I mean, being in New England, we don't even have like a good, train system.
You're missing out. I live next to a train line, a steam one.
No, England is 7.7 times as big as New England.
New England is literally bigger than before.
Yeah, it's the true American way. Just like make it bigger. Like we did England better. We still have all like the bitterness and repression and religious stuff as England, but we're a little bit bigger.
The American way.
To take a train to Toronto, which is, I must emphasize, an hour flight from where I am. It would take like a over a day's long train ride.
Oh boy.
Because I have to go and that's largely I think because of scheduling. Because I have to go down to New York, and then wait like 7 hours, and then go up to Toronto. When I guess I'll just fly everywhere.
Just walk.
I guess I will just fly everywhere. But I guess we should. I gotta ask you about video games. I guess.
What's a video game?
That's a great question. What's a video game?
Oh no, let's not get into that debate.
How would you important question? How would you define it? As someone who has made so many video games, how would you define a video game?
Video games is in the eye of the beholder.
Ah, beautiful. I accidentally. You've made so many video games, in fact, that when I was initially going to ask you to make a video game, I had missed that you had made a 10MG game, and I was going to. I kind of purposely was trying to avoid commissioning 10MG artists as well because I didn't want to just double up too hard.
Whoops.
Whoops. Turns out when you make a lot of video games, and I just missed the one with the little pill next to it.
Yeah, that was us.
Yeah.
That was fun too. Very different kind of. Oh god, I'm so glad you didn't make me make something for Steam.
No, I mean now that we have this cool launcher, I could probably even I could probably put stuff on Steam now, more easily.
It's not worth it.
No, I don't
so
think
not
so.
worth it.
I really don't think so. Because can you what level of forum moderation power do you have on Steam?
You have as a developer, you basically have very little power to do anything on Steam.
So if someone says post a bad take that I cannot just ban them from my forums.
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe. I keep Steam at such an arm's length.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I also don't really think that Steam would benefit what I do very much. Really.
No.
It seems like a lot of effort for people to tell me that these aren't games.
Exactly.
I can't believe I paid $15 for these things. None of them are even games.
I mean, think what a kind of badge of honor a very negative review would give you on Steam.
Truly.
As a bragging right. But it's probably not worth it.
No. But I
stick
do.
To good old Itch.io.
I do need some. I do need some real back of box quotes. I don't really have any good ones yet. But none of them have really jumped out at me. The only bad my ideal back of box quotes is there. I think it's on. Can't remember if it's on See You Next Tuesday or that other one that I forgot the name of off the top of my head. Friends at the Park. But the Jane May book, my book. I've never said it out loud. That says it's from Brian Lee O'Malley. It's I could throw Jane like a pizza, and it's back of the book quote, and I'm like,
that is good.
I like that as a quote. Really, I am real sad that this quarantine has eaten into 2 Toronto Comics Arts Festivals, and the second one is currently ongoing, and I was like, man. I love indie comic shows, and I could definitely have gotten into it if it were a physical event, but digital. I am still here at home instead.
That is the way. I am basically in the room I have existed in for 15 months.
Yeah, it is 15 months, I know, because the first Indiepocalypse launched before quarantine, and all the rest launched within quarantine. So 16 issues in, that's 15 months of quarantine.
It is just what's the first non-quarantine issue going to be like? The touch grass issue.
I don't know. Well, that's the thing is though, Indiepocalypse being an international publication, not everyone lives in the U.S. who can just buy their way out of quarantine, while also being so steadfastly dedicated to capitalism that they will just stick their head in the ground and ignore it otherwise and be like, oh, well, we'll all wear masks and then we'll just all go to Disney World still because we're just sick of this and we must make money. The onward march.
Should we steer to a less depressing conversation? What you were saying about video games.
Yeah.
We bantered.
Right. The first event that I'm looking forward to is going to the 2022 dates for the Godspeed You Black Emperor concert tour. I'm looking forward to that in my 2022, big time. What are you looking forward to in 2020? What's the next thing that you feel like is like your post quarantine event that you are most looking forward to?
There is this one vegan burger shop in Bristol where I live that I have been thinking about visiting for months. And they still exist. They haven't shut down. And that's what I've been looking forward to. Just a really good burger.
Oh, perfect. Now I want a burger. I should go get a burger. Honestly, after this show, that's the beauty of these 2 p.m. shows for me is that I can go out and do whatever I want now.
Mm.
I still have the whole world. I still have my whole day open to me. But speaking of our whole days, we are actually at the end of our mini day. That is this interview segment. We've hit our 30-minute mark so quickly. Freya, it was great to talk to you. I will see you again in an hour or so.
See you in an hour, Andrew.
Thank you for being here. We're going to go as soon as I find foobar in my pile of windows. We're going to go to break. Thank you. I'll be back in 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Mattress Disco by Headboard as part of my Giant Bob Memorial playlist, RIP to a real one. We are here with Murillo. Oh no, I forgot how to say it. Murillo, yes. Murillo. It's because I threw myself off because in my mind how I would say it that has an E in it. Murillo, welcome. You may know him from issue 2 of Indiepocalypse with Arrows Left. Hello.
Hello. That was a long time ago.
That was, you might say that was 14 months ago.
That was the times before, and I know that. Yeah, that was before the lockdown for sure because we met at PAX.
Yes. When I met at PAX and I had that was like PAX East was the launch of Indiepocalypse 1.
Correct, yeah.
And I had grand ambitions to bring PAX, the part of the reason that the zine part of Indiepocalypse exists was that it's very easy to bring to shows without me having to demo, say, for instance, 170 games at this point.
Yeah. Definitely things were, but I think that was a big thing, at least for me. Just before this podcast, I was playtesting a friend's game that I also met at PAX.
Yeah.
And a lot of things happened since 2020. I also had grand ambitions for 2020. That was started with PAX East and a lot of events that I was gonna go. But then, the world changed, right? And everything started getting canceled.
Yeah, PAX East was still people were like, hey, wash your hands a little bit more. I'm not gonna touch. Right, I'm not going to touch my face, Then everything.
Yeah, just going back from that trip is when everyone started realizing, this is getting serious, right? It was right at PAX that GDC got canceled, for example.
Yeah.
And I know you're pretty anti-GDC. If I remember correctly, wasn't Indiepocalypse you were really indies that didn't make GDC?
I think that was back when I still had ambitions of themed issues, back when beggars couldn't be choosers, back when I thought I was a chooser, not a beggar,
Yeah. So number 1 was Made in Boston, if I remember
correct,
correctly.
or Made in Massachusetts, but yeah, close enough to Boston when you break it all out. Yeah, and issue 2 was going to be not going to GDC, but then nobody went to GDC.
Exactly.
I
went to GDC.
I am still on the record as being fiercely anti-GDC for independent developers. I think GDC is a trade convention for large companies.
I think that sentiment grew a lot, and I'm a little bit guilty of wanting to go to GDC as well, if nothing else, because a lot of the I don't know, industry and game design knowledge that
Yeah.
I acquired came from the GDC Vault and those videos because they can be really, really good. But even from the sentiment of people that have been to GDC, because I think people are not necessarily paid, speakers are not necessarily paid, and there's a and especially
Right.
when the GDC summer, I think for last year came out and the prices came out, and we would see what speakers would be paid and stuff like this, and then people really got against it.
Yeah, the very idea that a speaker wouldn't be paid at all seems absurd for like something that charges just so much money.
Correct. Yeah, and being at PAX, I remember thinking like 2020 is the game is a day because I wasn't in the games industry yet,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself like, hey, 2020 is the year that I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna break it. I've been working for 2019 like just as a software developer, and I'm like, hey, making games like for game jams here and there, like Errors Left was one of those, and thinking like 2020 is going to be the year. And then I just, on a whim, I decided, okay, let me check how much it is to go to GDC because I knew it was coming up. And I thought, okay, I can't afford this. Like, I can't afford being in the region, right? Let's say I didn't want to attend to the things, but I just wanted to like crash the bars and just talk to people like, I can't afford this. But
Yeah.
then I look at PAX and I was like, oh, that's much closer. I have a shitty ass car that I can maybe drive there and get alive. And I made the math. I'm like, not worth it. Not worth the risk of maybe dying on the road. So I took the Greyhound, and then PAX was awesome. That was awesome. Like every year, you were talking to Frey about things looking forward in 2022.
Yeah.
Oh, if things are better in 2022, everyone's vaccinated and things are back control. I'm looking forward to go to PAX if that happens.
Yes, I am officially double shotted at this moment. And
Oh, that's congratulations.
I've it's a weird feeling. It's like I just speed ran a fever to help out the gamers to understand it and who are afraid of side effects. It's basically like you're like, wow, I feel really sick, and then the next day you're like, oh wait, I feel fine. What am I talking about?
Yeah, the people feel different things. My parents
Yeah.
got their first dose. I'm in Canada, in Ontario, and we're a little bit behind the U.S. I think things are
Huh.
better now.
Yeah, well,
Better
I
now.
mean, once again, the U.S. spends their way into every problem solution they can get. You know?
Well, when they set their minds to it, right?
Yeah.
Because when they don't want to do even that, then things are really bad.
Yeah, but then eventually, yeah, that's the beauty of America is it just has fucking so much, too many resources that it doesn't share with anyone else and just keeps using them all.
Well, at least didn't it recently get announced that at least I don't know if it's an official statement or something. There is a some countries are in favor of
Yeah.
breaking the patent for the vaccines, and the U.S. was against, but now the U.S. is in favor, which is
Yeah.
great news. Canada is still undecided. Come on, we gotta get our shit together.
Right.
This is unacceptable.
I mean, I think aren't most of them made it, like at least the major ones made in the U.S. anyway. So I'm sure hopefully that'll mean
They are. But
that'll mean that they can like speed that up a little.
I don't know. I just want everyone to get vaccinated. Things are bad. I'm not even just talking for Canada, right? I'm thinking
Yeah.
it is a global pandemic. Like we have to deal with everyone. It's everyone's problem.
Right, right. We just need to just spread it all over the place. We got enough people in the U.S. who think the vaccine are going to give you microchips, so that
And yeah, isn't it looking back in time, can you imagine like going to 2018 with the and like, hey, you know what's going to be the biggest challenge? It's not going to be like figuring out the vaccine or the distribution. It's going to be convincing people that having a vaccine is okay and it's going
right.
to help save lives and is your duty in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's listen. Listen. We had enough COVID talk on this show. I'm sick of COVID.
Sorry about that.
No, it's on everyone's mind. You know, it brings us all there.
Yeah, choose a topic. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's a thing that everyone thinks about. It's a thing that keeps people. It's our very much our collective. It's our collective touchstone in a world where everything gets delayed. It's like this is our pop culture is COVID.
Yeah. But you know what else is? Video games. Do you want to talk about video games?
I guess so. What do you think about video games?
They're good. I think people are negative about game. Maybe because of privilege, but also because I try to like. You guys are talking before about blocking people on Twitter. Like I
Yeah.
usually just try to trim my feed so I never see that kind of thing. I think something that really helps is that you have to fight with Twitter to allow a setting that doesn't let Twitter sort on its own terms what it's going to show you, right? So if you select it to to display it by time, Twitter will automatically switch that back to you, and you have to keep fighting with it until it gives up, which is what happened to me.
I use TweetDeck. That's my secret.
Yeah, I've heard people do this. I tried and I just couldn't get used to it. But anyway, I just try to filter social networks as much as possible so I just don't get the brunt of it. So yeah, gamers are bad, but I try not to be too negative. There are enough negative things in the world, so I try to be positive. So yeah, video games are good. My definition of video games is very lax as well.
Yeah.
It was nice getting Itch mentioned on Court Case.
Oh yeah. Itch as the hum of scum and villainy that it is.
It's nice because I wasn't around for DeviantArt or I can't draw for shit, right? I wasn't around too much for Newgrounds and the Flash era, so Twitch is kind of my haven of game. This is my time when I can do this, and I go onto it on Itch and I try to find, I don't know, games to try, people to check it out, people to follow. So getting Itch even mentioned by people who didn't even know existed, even if it's a exaggerated bad reputation like this, it's still like everyone's like, nah, Itch is awesome. It just prompted a wave of Twitch Itch appreciation around, which was interesting.
Yeah, it's good to bring a new era of smut to people who weren't around for Kramer's Hentai Adventure. Which, you know, the true late night classics for all the teens on Newgrounds. And, you know, I've thought about, like, as a bonus issue, a real raunchy, like, smut-filled version of Indiepocalypse. But, like, I've only had one game that was submitted, and, like, I had that moment where I was like, huh, this is a smut game, as it were, as you would call it, a pornographic game. And I was like, well, it's also just, like, fine. It's very middle of the road. I mean, I own copies of Smut Peddler, you know?
Collecting, like, physical copies?
You know, there's an Iron Circus, the comics publisher, put out a comics book called Smut Peddler. They're just, you know, they're erotica. I have no issue with erotica, but, like, it just wasn't very good, or not very good. That's unfair. It's just very, very middle of the road, and that mixed with, like, having to navigate, well, there's this one game in here that has sex in it.
Have you ever heard of a webcomic called Oglaf?
Oh yeah, Oglaf is good. Oglaf is good stuff.
Knows it. Like, it was super. I saw the webcomic first, like the safe for work version of the comic. I'm like, oh man, this is really funny. It's making fun of like D&D and tropes and all that. And then you go navigate the website and it's just, hey, suddenly a lots of sex. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. This guy jerked off and then he turned into a candle and ran away or something. But yeah, no, I've trying to, like, I mean, I imagine people are going to start making a lot of it very, like, based off that court case.
But, on purpose?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
People are going to get real dirty real quickly, like unlock their horny limiters and go full on. And
someone used a filter and tried to do the math of like what percentage of games actually have like sex or nudity or 18 plus or anything like this on Itch, and it was like 0. I'm not gonna quote the number, but it was less than 1%.
Yeah, but I bet they make a lot. There's a lot of money in that. There's a lot of money in horny. People will pay good bucks for the horny.
Man, on Steam, I think at some point, like, I gradually use Steam less and less.
Yeah.
Every year, right? And one of the things is I would open the Steam page, and again, nothing against people who want to play erotic games and all that. It's just not my thing, right? But the amount of them that would get featured in my page, like right up front, all the time, I'm like, okay, like, it just turned me off a little bit. But then what really happened for me to stop using Twitch, Steam, was Itch, because hey, if I can buy the same game on Itch, I'll buy it on Itch.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's You get that DRM free, which is always a plus. I can't believe we've lulled ourselves into a beautiful word DRM. I'll say for the chat, there's like 3 or 4 unspeakable jams at this point out there. People were very quick to jump onto that idea. And there's
what? Say that again.
Those like unspeakable, unmentionable games. There's like 3 or 4 jams that people have already made on itch.
Oh yeah.
People are ready. People are ready to go.
People are fast. Okay, yeah, the internet's fast. Never underestimate the ability of the internet to make porn.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's a rule of the universe, right?
Yeah.
Law zero thermodynamics, and then you have the ability of the internet to make porn.
Yeah, people are ready to go at the drop of a hat. And I applaud. Listen, it's a very complicated web, of navigating. Listen, it's all very messy. And this, I don't know if this show is serious enough to really break down how I approach and how one approaches erotica versus pornography versus what feels gross versus what doesn't feel gross versus whatever. Anyway. Are you there for the story, or like, are you there for the porn? Are you there for it's like, if you're just there for the pornography, you can just find that on the internet. You don't have to play 8 hours of a game or whatever.
Oh man, I think that applies to, going back to this, I think that applies to many games in some ways. I was just watching a video. I'm going to upset a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
If a lot of people are listening. I was just watching a video, literary analysis. Man, I can't pronounce that.
Literary.
Star Wars 1 and 2,
yeah.
KOTOR games, KOTOR 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And by a guy called Noah Kedewal-Gvez. They're really like on YouTube. And essentially, have you played those games, KOTOR 1 or 2?
I have, yes.
So essentially, everyone knows like KOTOR 2 has some good philosophy and some good stuff, and I don't want to spoil anything, but the game is such a mess to play. It's so bad to play. Like, it's I understand the crunch development and how development was bad, but like, it doesn't, is what you said, oh, are people there for the porn and then they watch, they have to play a shitty game for 8 hours for the porn. This is how I feel about KOTOR 2. Like, there's a lot here that is not gameplay that people want, but then people have to endure the gameplay to get to it.
Yeah, so it's like, at that point, you just watch like a cutscene. You just watch somebody play the game. I mean, that's really like my approach to. I have a deep affection for FMV games, but I don't really want to play them. Same with like adventure games in general, I think.
What's your favorite one? Like, what's one do you remember playing?
Oh,
I'll probably not know, but
did I remember? See, the thing is, I don't, like I said, that I remember playing. I don't really know. Maybe my favorite adventure game that I've played is maybe the first Broken Sword, I think.
See, I don't even know what game that is.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the very few that I've like actually played is that first Broken Sword. And
does
like,
Myst count?
Myst is an adventure game, I'd say.
Yeah, that's probably one that I've played.
Yeah, because it's either that or like it's its own genre, one of the two. But
okay, that's a fair point. Yeah, it's not a pixel hunt game, but it's an adventure game. You're right.
Yeah, but so that would count. Maybe I want to play like I even backed that like new Broken Sword, even though I hadn't played any of like the 5 games in between or whatever. And it's one of the few video game Kickstarters that ever. Actually, the only video game Kickstarters that ever delivered were that and Broken Age. So there's either the Broken Connection or the adventure game connections.
Oh, so you're saying like the intersection between Kickstarters that delivered and adventure games is this small? Because I haven't followed up on a lot of adventure games.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Kickstarter that delivered.
I think those are the only 2 Kickstarter video games that actually came out. I only kickstart comic books at this point because I know they'll deliver because I'm just basically paying for printing costs.
That's a very valid point because I've also been following a lot of Kickstarters that are like tabletop RPGs, stuff like this, and the ratio at these came out is like it's ridiculous, right? Like it's pretty much guaranteed. It's like you said, you're just paying for the printing costs, maybe the editing, maybe some of the art,
right?
But it's essentially done. So they come where video games, it's like here's a prototype. It has varying levels.
Right.
We have someone with most of the game.
Right, we're super underselling our budget because, yeah, or like we're understanding that these people are also clearly working full-time jobs inside of video games, because there's no way you can make a video game for like $80,000. That's that doesn't pay anyone's salary for that pays like, unless you're living in like a really low
cost of living, right?
low cost of living area. That's like maybe my brain is just skewed living in one like the highest cost areas of a very rich country, is that I'm like, oh, that's everything's so expensive. But maybe really if you were living not in, say, for instance, Massachusetts, United States, it's a lot cheaper to live.
So I live in a city where the cost of living is not that high, and my rent's relatively cheap, and I share it with my partner, right? And you said 80,000, right?
Yeah.
If I could draw and I could pay someone for the music, I could release a game that was like, I'm speaking out of my ass here, but let me do the quick math here. Honestly, I could do 1 year development on this and release a game. Would it be good? I don't know.
Right.
But I could release a game on 80,000. Would it be something that people would kickstart? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, a game. I could make a game on 80,000, but like I'm not a team of 5 people,
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's this is where indies really get the bullet in the head.
Yeah.
Where it's one thing, the more people you put into a team for specialization, the harder it gets to make the return on investment, right? You get another person. Let's say you're a team of one person who can do everything great. You're the guy who did Stardew Valley. He took 6 years to make the game, but hey, he only had to feed himself, right?
Right.
But if you put a second person, now you're asking to have to sell twice as many copies to break even, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really hard proposition when you start with like, oh, my indie studio has 4 people, and I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, it's like what kind of maniac would publish something that has 11 people that need to get paid in it, right?
Yeah. Well, I can't draw for shit, and I wish I could do music, and I can't. But I'm trying to learn those things so I don't run into the situation, so I can do something that is like, hey, this is decent, and I can program. So here's a game. I like to do writing. This is actually something that Jeff Vogel mentions. He's a guy who makes a 20, 30-year-long series of CRPGs. The games look like shit. Have you ever seen any of those games?
What are they called? What are they called?
Check Avernum.
Oh, I know Avernum. Okay.
Yeah, right. They look terrible. And I love RPGs. And he knows that they look terrible. And he talks about it and why they look terrible. But he's like, hey, I just try to sell on the other, on content or on the writing, right? And this is what people play. I want to do something like this. I want to do what people, Xavier, a guy on, I forgot, he did Dog Airport something.
Yeah.
And he talks about making pizza money games. Like you just spend 2 months making a small game, and maybe it makes $20, maybe he makes 200, but he pays for pizza, and you're satisfied to having put something out in the game. So those are my current plans.
Yeah, I think surprising no one, I think there needs to be more small scale development and we need more video game EPs.
What do you mean EPs?
The records that are extended plays, as it were, that are like 4 tracks long, shorter than an LP, which is usually like, a full record. Basically, shorter versions. You gotta teach these kids about music.
You do. I'm sorry. I also I grew up in Rio, right? And there's also cultural differences.
Right. Yes.
No, but I agree. Like even AA or indie games, I think I want games to be shorter. I don't want longer games. If a game advertises over 100 hours of gameplay, and I'm like, Jesus, no.
Yeah, I have games.
I don't have 100 hours.
I have games that require over 100 hours of gameplay, and I call it Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. The worst part is that in my current list, I have a bunch of long games to play, like Persona 5 or Nier, and I was like,
okay. Like Nier 1? Like original?
No, I think Automata. So I don't even know. Like, I know there's Nier 1, and then there is Automata. I don't know how you want to say
Automata.
it. And there's several other versions of it.
Yeah,
right?
there's
At least
yeah.
one more version. And I don't know which one to play.
I don't know what Replicant changes about Nier. Listen, I have not played Automata. I have not played Replicant. I utterly adore the original Nier, and it's weird to see people praise Replicant. It feels like revisionist history that people are suddenly into the original Nier. It feels like people like the culture has shifted. I don't know if people realize how smart that game is now, or if people are just like hopping on the Nier bandwagon. It feels really weird.
Work sometimes, right?
Yeah.
People don't like it at the time, but then in the future they come to appreciate.
Yeah.
How can someone play the original nowadays? I remember
Yeah.
you needed a PS2 or PS3.
No, that was like a 360 PS3 era game.
Yeah. Do you need one of those two consoles to play? There's no PC port of any kind.
I don't believe so. I think. Listen, the problem with Replicant, it doesn't have the dad Nier, and I like dad Nier.
But, yeah, it's the dad Nier.
Yeah.
But I know very little of it.
It's a very cool game, really. It's so fascinating and kind of like of itself and very little else. The boars drift in that game.
So I'm always interested in games that have a certain cult following, not because I want to be a hipster, just because that game must be doing something that other games are not.
Yes.
Right? So let me give an example. If I already trash talked KOTOR 2 and people are gonna hate me, there's a game that I think I'm gonna preface saying I think the game is good. I just hate it. I don't like it. And I like parts of it, but I just had a terrible time playing, which is Undertale.
Yeah.
Because the game is really good, the music's great, the representation is awesome, but I just didn't like the humor.
Yeah.
And I think there's one thing with the game that it requires multiple playthroughs, which I usually don't. I don't usually have time for several playthroughs. But to make it worse, for some of the paths that are on the normal path, you have to go out of your way to unlock those paths, right?
Right.
It's very hard to get them naturally. You have to almost Google how to do it. You have to follow a guide in how to unlock those paths, and that detracts from me the experience. And I'm like,
Here's my hot tip: only play one path in the game, unless it turns out you won't lose very much. Because really, in life, you won't lose very much if you never played that game in the first place. So really, you won't lose very much if you only play one path, and it just becomes your canonical path.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. But I still like the soundtrack a lot. But and this is. I know people like this game. They like it a lot, and I can see why, right? And this is one of the games. I'm still happy. It's kind of weird to say this. I hated my time playing it, but I'm still happy I played it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, listen. It has a very specific style of humor, and I feel like it's not like if one joke I think it's possible for a joke to not land, but if a joke doesn't land because you just don't like that style of humor, I don't think any of the jokes in that thing will land.
Exactly. Which is what I told my friend. Like, humor is very personal, right? Like, it either lands or not. It doesn't work. It's not like a movement mechanic or the music or I don't know, the graphics, which are more graded. The humor is, if it's not there, it's not there.
I have a lot of people who would tell me that Dragon's Dogma plays like shit that would argue that movement mechanics are more what's that word, like, for objective movement. I think those.
No, I think they're objective, just not as binary.
Right. I think they can be. Everything has that fluidity to it, and I think gamers get too caught up in what can be objective, and I don't think any parts of a game are objective. I think everything. I don't think there is like this moves good, this sounds good, this whatever. Unless you're talking about like whether it's crackly and distorted and it sounds like but also that could sound good. Anyway, as we end our time here so soon, I have to ask you, Amarlo, what is your favorite cult game in that case then?
My favorite cult game, like, it has to be underrated?
Or I don't like the term underrated, because I feel like that's just underrated for people who just want to show off, you know. But for something that you think would fall into the cult games category,
it gets better over time, right?
Or it's it has like a very singular voice that draws people to it. I think cult in itself is like a broad descriptor. It just means that as I think cult basically has a smaller, passionate following.
Man, that's gonna be hard because I'm drawing a bunch of things and I'm like, they're not necessarily unique. I thought, like, for example, back when CD Projekt, everyone loved it because The Witcher 3, people said, I love The Witcher 1.
Yeah.
That's not a very unique. It doesn't have a voice. Actually, Papers, Please. Go. There you go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And with that, we are going to go on our break. Thank you. We will be back in 2 minutes and 17 seconds, give or take. Thanks again. Apocalypse Radio, that was Midnight Brown with Cat Belt Buckle. We are here with our next guest, who you may remember from Indiepocalypse, also issue 15, with the Escape from Tomb of Apep. That is Jorge. Hello, Jorge.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am doing good. I am doing great. Now, I got to ask you, finally, I can ask this question, the important Indiepocalypse Radio question, which is, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
Oh, how I heard about Indiepocalypse.
Yeah.
I think I heard something about Indiepocalypse at some point before even thinking about making my own games. And let's say I checked the aesthetics, the covers of Indiepocalypse and so on. I thought, this is cool. And to be brutally honest, I then forget about it. And at some point, when I started with this game making, it came back from the depths of my mind and thought, like, maybe I could be part of this. Let's see. But I don't know. I think I heard from someone I know on Twitter. I'm not sure, actually.
Okay. That's good to hear, especially the part of I forgot about it for a very long time. Which I gotta figure out how to.
So long because Indiepocalypse is not so old itself. But for some time I forgot about it, and then it came back naturally. Yeah.
Not so long. You say that now, but it's been going for 16 months.
It's successful thing. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
it's surprisingly long lived.
Yeah, I guess you couldn't bet it would be so long lived and so many people interested in it when you first started.
The thing is, it was always like a something that I knew I could sustain forever, basically, because I was funding it in place of paying for student loans in my car. So instead of paying for those, I instead started paying for Indiepocalypse. So theoretically, so long as I could find people, I could have sustained it forever. But it's nice that people are also like coming. Like now, I am no longer want for submissions. I have more people than I could ever need at this point.
It's crazy because actually one of the fun things about Indiepocalypse is that you don't know what to expect from the different games on its issue. It's like a surprise, and I love that.
Yeah. I try to, with each issue, I try my best to kind of create a wide variety. I think what is my good like log line? It's like to show the depth and breadth of indie games or something. Basically, there's a lot of stuff, and I want people to see all that stuff.
Yeah, you've been successful on that. I think it's quite varied, and what I love about this indie game environment is that you can just tell the story you want. You can send a message. You can do something just for fun. It might be just only fun for you, and anyone else would appreciate it. I don't know. But,
it was just, as long as maybe like 2 other people appreciate it, that's something,
but it gives us so many opportunities that we couldn't think of them not so long ago, and
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, even if
Yeah.
our games are unspeakable, but okay, we can deal with that.
Right. Yeah. Even like because I believe you made your game in GB Studio, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which it is with that itself is fairly new, I think, right?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
That itself is fairly new. GB
Yes, I
Studio
think
is.
so. I think so. Well, the thing is, uh, I I I have no coding skills. I'm trying to learn now about it, but I'm not even a hardcore gamer,
Right.
a casual gamer, let's say. And
Oh,
at some point,
what? Listen, I'm gonna have to. Sorry, Jorge. I'm gonna have to kick you from the call. We don't allow casuals on Indiepocalypse Radio. We are
yeah,
only the truest gamers in these parts. We have to,
yeah,
you have to properly present your gamer credentials at the door, lest you be removed.
okay, point taking.
No, actually, I think that's like very important that this democratization of games having
Yeah,
such a huge like because coding is such like a bigger. I mean, all art has a like a barrier to it because all art has a technical skill required. But
yeah. Not sorry.
huh?
The thing is, speaking about GB Studio, I think it's having a great part on this democratization because, well, I mean, I became interested in game development. I was looking at different engines, different options I could try, and when I came across GB Studio, it was crazy because I grew up using Game Boy and I loved it at first sight. You don't even need coding skills. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, let's try this. And I was surprised that there is a very healthy and there is an amazing community on GB Studio. Everyone is helping each other, and I really enjoyed it. Now I'm making my second game on GB Studio, which is far more complex than Escape from the Tomb of a Pet. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable tool, and
Yeah, but you have
I
to. The
love.
thing is, you have to make that first step. You have to start somewhere. So like you have to realize that I can make something in GB Studio, and I can
Yeah,
like. It turns out making a game is actually not. Listen, I guess making a game is in fact easy, but like finishing a game or being satisfied with a game is the hard part. But that's also just like art.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
That is not unique to game design. Is being satisfied with the output.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy with the output. I consider myself more a writer or a storyteller than
Yeah,
anything else. And even if my game story is extremely simple, um, some people, and by some people, I don't mean my friends or my mom, told me, well, this is fun. I've enjoyed playing it. So I'm really satisfied. It started as an experiment, like let's see what I can do here, and yeah, and now I'm here, and I'm very happy to be here.
yeah. Listen, Indiepocalypse seeks to get people who is like from absolute beginners to people who have been toiling away for years upon years. Because really, all games are good, and it's all about finding a variety of skill sets and what's the word I'm looking for? Like stylistic approaches, and it's also neat to just
Yeah.
have games in multiple languages.
Yeah. Well, that's
Really?
yeah, that's my job, and
Yeah,
why not?
really.
But yeah, it's great that we can enjoy this, but people from many different backgrounds and telling different messages and
Yeah.
to talk about styles, of course,
Right.
because
Yeah, there's a lot of like even from like listen, even from like town to town there are these like I'm sure there are countless bits of ingrained culture that people are probably completely unaware of that get expressed through their work. Never mind like across countries. So I think it's
yeah,
always important to get as like a wide a swath as people as you can get to kind of like get as wide a swath of ideas as you can possibly find because, you need as many people as there are to
yeah,
be in the
definitely,
zine.
definitely, I agree. And I think you've mentioned something very interesting here because you were talking about quarantine and corona earlier and so on, and this indie game environment has been, I think, for me and for many people, also like a great coping strategy sometimes. Just like I don't know, for me, like entering each and just messing around and let's see what I can find. Let's see if I find something interesting. Sorry, and sometimes not doing it and just playing some crappy game because
Yeah.
of course it happens. It helps. I don't know
Yeah.
how to say it, but it's really helpful sometimes when you are dealing with anxiety and many different issues, which I guess many of us have had this last year. Just being able to do that, it's amazing, really.
Yeah, it's like
It's so simple. It's just something so simple that can help a lot.
yeah, people have definitely adapted to like, well, we have to find a way to like socialize when nobody can go to events, nobody can go outside, nobody can meet up in groups. So how does anybody talk to anyone else? How does anybody meet anyone else? How does anyone do anything? And if you don't enjoy sitting around in your house all day not talking to anybody, which I will be fair, even though I host a radio show, I do often enjoy doing that. But
Mm.
that is kind of like my preferred. I like to keep to myself for the vast majority of time. But I like specialized events such as this to like go out and I think, you know, itch can even if you're not like using the forums, which I don't honestly, it feels like nobody uses those forums, but like it still creates like a sense of community to like just to see other people making stuff, even if you aren't like directly interacting with them. Creates
Yeah,
like a
well, but even if you are not taking part in the forums or if you are not looking for a community, you can just sometimes you feel like shit, and
yeah,
you can you can just go there. Let's try to find something I like or even something I don't like, and evade from reality for a while. And actually, that's that's a strategy. That's not a strategy, but for me, it's something it helped, and also I found some hidden gems. I really enjoyed playing like years ago. Yeah, yeah, I better games than some of the best games I played in the last years. I found them like this, like just browsing the place and let's try something. Oh, this looks good. I don't know. I don't know if this makes sense at all.
No, it's true, because like as it turns out, like the quality of something is not really related at all to, you know, the relative amount of attention given to it. So it's entirely possible for something to be completely like I mean, a hidden gem is like, they're not hidden, just nobody's looking at them. So it's not weird to like just be like browsing through itch randomly and suddenly find something that you had never seen before, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. And then I mean, plenty of the people who have been in Indiepocalypse have, like, as far as I can tell, little to no following. But it doesn't make their games bad. I mean, a lot of these are going to be like, wow, these games are amazing. Why isn't anyone paying attention to them? But also, you know, Indiepocalypse itself, I don't think ever really hits like 1,000 views or whatever, you know?
Yes, of course.
So it's very much, you know, it's all very small, but it's small scale in a way that I think you need to, like, people need to get out of the zeitgeist. We need to really step away from it and just close yourself off from it and take that pop culture and throw it out the window. You don't need it. Just go, I mean, except for Indiepocalypse, put Indiepocalypse in your zeitgeist. Make that the new zeitgeist. Have your discourse about it. And it fits so comfortably in all indie game discourse. Our indie games art fits into there, fits into payment, fits into all these sorts of fun discussions of whatever. I think it hits like every major discourse piece. So really, bring it in there with you. But yeah, there's a lot to be said for just like being able to browse and find things that you would have otherwise never thought about.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that this is small. Actually, it's something we need, and traditionally, I don't think it has been so common in video games. Something like, of course, there always have been indies. There always have been small games or small communities.
Yeah.
But right now, it's exploding. And, well, it has been for some years now. And of course, I love that there are some indie games that succeed commercially. That's amazing. But also that there are so many small-scale games, communities, anthologies like Indiepocalypse. I don't know. I think that's very healthy for this environment. That will enrich the whole community always.
Yeah.
Where there isn't a small scale part of something, I don't mind what we are talking about. We can talk about games, books, or whatever. It's the same. It's all the same. Where there isn't a small scale community. The community can be big, but I mean people doing small scale things. There's always something missing, because it's so enriching both for small developers or small studios, and also for big ones who maybe have the money and many.
Yeah.
They can achieve many things we cannot.
Yeah, I think there is also like an illusion of smallness with some things where they're small relative to, like, for instance, like, say a large corporation with $100 million budget. They only have a $1 million budget, you know, as opposed to when you get really small scale and they have, like, for instance, a $0 budget. Their budget is the same thing as all the rest of the money they have.
Yeah. Well, they have their own restrictions.
Yeah.
Usually narrative or yeah, they have their own expectations they have to meet, and they're free.
Yeah, I do not have a budget. For instance, my budget is basically, well, how much money do I have?
Yeah. The only thing we have to deal with are haters and
Right.
trolls. Let's say.
And if I run out of it, well, goodbye to this. But I hope I don't see that happening, foreseeably at least.
Yeah.
Because if that happens, there's a lot worse going on in my life. That
Oh yeah, definitely.
than not being able to do any podcasts. I'm like, well, that's collateral damage, but not the main issue here.
Yeah, like this is not a game. Or...
Yeah, there's other stuff going on in that case.
You can definitely live with that. Yeah.
Right, but anywho's, I've got. Let me do as customary with the last guest. I have to do my last minute. Okay, I just had to do my last minute question refresh as is customary with my final guest at this point, and there are, as unsurprisingly, 0 new questions. But we don't need new questions here. I can provide all of the questions we need to have. Like, for instance, Jorge, if you were to ask a question and leave in a submission box, what would it be?
Excuse me, sorry.
Oh, never mind. It was a bad question.
No.
No. It was very in the moment, and now the moment has vanished. But, aside from that, so do you remember any of the hidden gems you had come across, or have they kind of like occupied a very like passing nature in your brain?
Well, I can remember a small. Yes, I think at some point I came across a small strategy game. It was a demo actually of an upcoming video game, I think, but it worked as a game itself. And it was called Winter Falling, I think. I'm looking for it. It was Winter Falling, and it's probably not so hidden, but I loved playing that. It's an original strategy game, and really enjoyed it.
Well, I would say, considering it's on Steam with a whopping no user reviews.
Oh,
I
came across it in itch, and
it's got 45 reviews there.
It was a demo, actually. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
So I would definitely classify that as a hidden gem.
Oh well. Let me see. Because I'm so bad at names.
Yeah.
Oh well, I have to say there are. When I started researching this GB Studio community, I found some great games, and there is a guy called Horatio who has 2 GB Studio games, and the names are Pizza Root. I have actually translated that game to Spanish. I collaborated with him.
How complicated is doing that in GB Studio?
Well, it's what we did was copying all the text strings to an Excel spreadsheet, and I worked there, and then he could copy-paste them back in GB Studio, so it was quite simple. The thing is, it has length restrictions, so that was the difficult part. We had to, of course, you can always add more text, but you don't want to come up with a novel or the Bible. It's just a Game Boy game. So
Yeah.
and Spanish is usually longer than English, so that was the difficult part. Trying to keep it short and sweet.
Right.
But anyway, his games are great. He has this Bitterroot and Neighbor. They are horror games, quite narrative, and I love them. I love them, and the art is great. This guy is really amazing. His pixel art is so cool.
Yeah, especially since, if you're working in GB Studio, you are very, beholden to, the actual limitations, not, the fake limitations, of, because I deal in fake limitations because I work in Game Maker, so I don't actually,
Yeah.
So so if I'm going to make a game, if I'm going to make, for instance, my fake ZX Garth Marenghi game, I am clicking on Sprite and setting my ZX color palette, but and I'm doing the right resolutions and doing that wild ass control scheme that the ZX had, which is QA OP or something like that. Whatever wild control scheme it used to have. That was so confusing when I looked it up, but to each their own, I guess. This computer, PC controls were real wild there for a long time. You have to activate combat mode and go to the numpad and use a bunch of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Before everything was very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say stabilized, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? That's not stabilized. That's not normalized. I think it's normalized.
We have conventions now, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. Yes, we have conventions now. We have, everything is very normalized. Everything has its place now. Jorge, I gotta ask you, if you were to ever make a fake GB Studio game based off an existing property, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I have no idea. Wow, I think I cannot answer that. I would need time to think about it.
Well,
I don't know.
Then we will approach you at a different time about it, perhaps. But for now, we are going to go to break and come back with everybody. Thanks for being here, Jorge, and I will see you again in 2 minutes.
Thank you.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Future Robin Hood by also Midnight Brown. I thought about putting a Suburban All-Stars track, but I just didn't like any of them very much. But I think Midnight Brown actually has some legit bangers. I played, President of the Mall in an earlier show. I think it's just a good track to listen to. Welcome to everyone back to the show. We're here with everyone at this time. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
I've brought a sample of my. I joked about a Garth Marenghi, but that's actually my project for fun that I'm making is a ZX Spectrum. What if there was a ZX Spectrum, much like Garth Marenghi is an imagined TV show. What if I had imagined a ZX Spectrum game that came out with it?
Game of the show.
Yes, and I am currently in my free time, I've actually gotten a lot more free time as I've gotten better at this, and it's been what I have been working on.
And you're using RPG Maker?
No, I use Game Maker.
Oh, Game Maker.
Yeah. And then I use Game Maker and Ace Sprite. Get Ace Sprite.
Ace Sprite's awesome.
Yeah, it lets me just like say ZX please, and then it gives me like the 6 colors or whatever that the ZX has. It's probably closer to 8. But
A whole 8 colors. That's so many.
it's actually like really interesting to work in like that color palette, you know? Or like I like the appeal of working in a very limited color palette. Because it's
which
like
one is it?
the ZX Spectrum.
I don't know. There's some colors here. I think it's 16 colors, just like Pico 8.
Yeah, that's a lot of colors.
Whopping 16 colors. Look at that.
Yeah, there's like 2 reds, 2 blues, 2
I was gonna
greens.
say that. You got 2 reds to choose from. What are you complaining about?
Yeah, it's really, I think it's interesting. And I've been like looking at ZX like art styles and like what are the techniques they used for that, and like how do they create depth? How do they like create characters? A lot of black backgrounds on the ZX. Really like saves you a lot of space on color if all the backgrounds are just actually don't have a color. Lets things stick out a lot more. But anyway, I'm just excited about that thing because it's been fun to really make a game my own once again.
It's always a good achievement.
Now with the weird but with not knowing if there's a weird expectations of like what a game I make looks like. Now, 16 months in, people be like, "Oh, he makes bad games. Who cares about? Who are you to judge?" But anyway.
When you say 16 months, are you talking about Indiepocalypse or
Yeah, Indiepocalypse. Yeah.
The game?
No, I couldn't work on a game for 16 months.
How long have you been working?
Can you imagine working on a game for 16 months?
No.
You're insane.
Yeah, no, I mean this current game, this Dark Place game, I'd say I worked on it for maybe a day, all said and done, you know. In terms of like I've really put like maybe two good work sessions into it, and one of them was like me actually planning everything out. And then one was me drawing a lot of sprites.
That's what game jams are for.
Yeah, but I don't do game jams anymore. I'm done with those. I do games on my own time. Anyway, I'm gonna make him go away now. Goodbye, Garth. I'll see you another time. But I did get overly ambitious with gameplay styles, or very simple gameplay styles, but that requires a lot of different sprites. But I've gotten much better at really, churning out sprites. And I will say to everyone, make games faster. Just put it out. Go straight to inking is what I've been. I think
There's a good term for that. Strike while the iron is hot, etc., etc. Seize the day. I know, like, if I take too long on a project, then all that initial enthusiasm just runs out. That's like...
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's a loss of the initial momentum, but also all the other ideas that you have for prototypes or for other games, they start creeping up, right? So it's almost a race until you have the next idea that you're really excited about before you finish the previous idea that you're really excited about.
God, yeah.
Yeah, listen. I have like 2 long festering projects I think that I want to make that I don't know that if I have time I could eventually make, but who knows.
The best game is when you just plan out in your head and never make.
Yeah, like my Fire Emblem game that I'll make one day. That'll never actually get made. My tactics RPG.
Yeah, those are hard. I started programming because I wanted to do a Final Fantasy Tactics for PC, and it didn't exist.
Yeah, I have a lot of. Usually, most of my, it's like the old adage goes: 90% all creative endeavors are powered by horniness or spite, and I am usually 90% spite, give or take. At least in the initial outset, and most things I create are me based on going, oh, I hate this thing. What if they did this instead? And that's like where my creative. That's where Indiepocalypse comes from. In and of itself, is I hate something. What if I didn't? That's where this show comes from.
Where is the spite from Indiepocalypse? Who's the target?
It's the target is gaming culture and indie culture and kind of like the expectations of length and that sort of thing, expectations of like markets. Yeah.
What about the podcast?
Oh, that was a lot of really boring indie game podcasts.
I feel like when you make a podcast, you have to have a certain level of spite targeted against yourself, kind of thing. Kind of like self-spiteful endeavor podcast.
Yeah, okay, this was like also Indiepocalypse Radio is 50% spite, 50% admiration. So I really enjoy.
And zero horny.
Zero horny. No, listen, I do this podcast with 3 strangers every week. I feel like I'm not in a situation where I can bring horny into the equation. That's really like asking a lot of strangers, you know? That's like Indiepocalypse is a horny-free zone. I gotta get that gift that says this is a hentai-free zone.
Sure, just bringing up Kramer's hentai adventure in a totally kind of chaste, non-horny way.
Yes, that is. Listen, Kramer is looking for love. Okay. At the end of the day, and he is just like that. Love can involve nudity and physical intimacy is a whole other thing, but Kramer is a man of passion above all else.
Are we not all?
I think we all are, but they've gotta coming in real hot with the GIF action, but yeah, no. So this was partially. This show is partially based on the fact that I really enjoyed. So a theater in Boston would host a bad movie night called Trash Night, and then they took it on Twitch, and I really enjoy that. And then the cartoonist Evan Dom hosts an old cartoon, like outsider or weird cartoon stream on Sunday nights called the Ambiguity Program, and I really enjoyed that. And I kind of like these collective online experiences. That it turned into a podcast also was something that, because people kept asking me where they could listen to it, and I was like, fine, I guess I'll start posting it online as well. But yeah, and then
I should tune into Evan Dom's Sunday night thing. His comics are good.
Yeah, I actually had never read any of his comics until I don't think I did. I have the Howling of Hell. I just got it fairly recently. It was the first time I ever did a Kickstarter, and then I did like a +1, and I added that to it because
I just think Rice Boy is one of my favorite. Comics.
It's like one of my blind spots. I think when I was reading webcomics at that time, I was just not into the long form type that he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I think when I first read it, it had finished recently.
Okay.
I think, and so it was here is this whole pack, or maybe it was just about to finish or something like that. And so it's like, here's this whole package. Because I think like I get sometimes you look at a comic that's ongoing, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
Like to me to read, it's like I
Right.
got to remember it's on Thursday to go check it or something.
Right, exactly. And if you are like fully, like, you're right. And also I hate reading things on my computer if I don't have to. So really, I just gotta like sit down and like buy it one of these days, I feel like I feel like it's released in an omnibus.
I feel like it's got a book.
Yeah.
It would be a great book. Yeah, it has got a book.
Yeah.
No.
Even people's work that like I regularly follow, like I had not read, He Is a Good Boy by Casey Green for like well after like until its Kickstarter release, even though I was like regularly followed his work, just because I don't like necessarily reading comics online if I don't have to. But sometimes I recognize that's the only way you can. But I usually just wait till Kickstarters come out and then just buy them. I'm what they call a super backer, as I learned.
What is that? Because you back a bunch of projects?
Yeah, that's all that means, is I just backed a bunch of projects. But I got like an email or something, or like a badge. They're like, congratulations, you're a super backer now. I'm like, wow, congrats. And the spite, I feel like it's important to say that the spite was, I think I remember there was a let's call them a smaller to mid-tier indie game publisher that was started up their own show as well. And I was like, oh, this seems neat. And then it was like Twitch bullshit. And I was like, this sucks.
What kind of bullshit?
Like they played their games and they sat in their secret lab chair with their green screens. And they're like, oh, Bong Lord, I know you're always here in Twitch chat. And I was like, I hate that. I hate Twitch stuff.
Remember, if you leave, don't say you're going in the chat, because it will make others leave.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. Here's how I use Twitch. Besides Trash Dead and Ambiguity Program, occasionally I put Magic the Gathering streams on mute on my second monitor to see what decks people are playing with. And that, I understand Twitch culture. I get that that's what it is. I have no interest in it personally.
I don't think because I started streaming games a couple of months back as like an excuse to play some games. Mostly.
Yes.
And I don't get like Twitch culture hashtag or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm just playing games. People are watching. People are talking. That's it. Like, what else is there?
Right. Yeah, I think.
What are you streaming? Just out of curiosity.
I started playing Morrowind because I wanted an excuse to play it, and it's like one of my favorite games ever. But I've been playing Alien Isolation because I think that's a fun like spectator one. I've been co-op playing Halo with my girlfriend. Like, I'd never played them, and so we've been going through the entire series on stream. The first two games of which was like agony, and actually really good now. But like, Halo 1 was not a good game.
I guess they are. I don't know my experience of. I think
I dropped Halo 1 near the very end of the game, and I try to finish all games. I don't like dropping games. I've finished a lot of bad games, a lot of like terrible games in Halo 1. I still drop near the end.
Yeah,
there is one like endless level that absolutely just destroyed my sanity, which is like
the library.
Basically, the library. Yeah, it's just the same thing over.
Something wrong. Like, you know how sometimes games that have scripted sequences were like, oh no, you cannot fight this boss, right? He's gonna have heal forever. You have to run away, or like he keeps spawning forever. You actually have to hit the magical lever behind the bookshelf. And I thought this was it. I'm like, but I think back then I didn't go to GamesFAQ for whatever reason. I think I didn't have enough memory on my computer to alt tab to check it out. So after I closed the game, I didn't check it and never opened it again.
Is that it? Rage quit in the end.
Yeah. Perfect. Most of my memories of Halo are multiplayer, like competitive multiplayer memories. And really, my main memory is I've talked about this on the show before, but we developed a race game with inside of Halo where you would just race
Forge?
across. No, but this is pre-Forge. This is Halo 2. Like, we just, like, designed in ourselves, in our minds, in our imaginations, a track that you would have to race across, and you would just race, and you couldn't shoot each other, but you would just race. And you would just
Original
race.
game mods.
You would just race warthogs. It was the course with the. It was the map with the subway car that would go through it, because you would have to jump across the train track, and sorry, the long car track, and you have to make sure that it didn't hit you, and that was the whole thing.
See, like, I think, like, I would not play it single player.
Yeah.
And multiplayer, it's like the game itself is average, but it's a good platform for whatever multiplayer hijinks you want to turn it into.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, sometimes you'll play through, as someone who knows two people who played through all of Hunted the Reckoning, sometimes people will just play games together because there are games that you're able to play together.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're gonna invent games that you can't play together. Like people are gonna get a single player game and turn it into a multiplayer game.
Yeah. Yes.
I did. You guys have played or heard of Super Hexagon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That game actually, when you put several controllers in the keyboard, they all work at the same time. So what we did, I did it with my friends, that we played it multiplayer. So every 10 seconds, we would switch the controller, right? Like one person would stop, the other person had continue. But this game is very twitchy, so you have to coordinate very well. And that became the mod to play multiplayer to finish the first game. And it would happen that, like, we would alternate, right? The first guy would start, and the second and the third. But then the guy who was on deck would always be counting to start. Like, we had to, like, create strategies for it to work. It was super funny.
Wow. Oh, I can't. It's such a fine and control twitchy game.
Exactly.
And trying to do it. Oh, that sounds like.
I highly recommend. It was super engaging. I don't know if it would work well over the net. But in person, this was like years ago. It was amazing. Another game that I recommend playing is a single player, but you can technically play with an infinite amount of people. Is Return of the Obra Dinn by Lucas Pope, the same guy who made Papers, Please.
Mm-hmm. How do you play that multiplayer?
So I played it with like three people, and essentially one person could control, but everyone was putting together their theories to figure out the solutions, right, to things. And this actually works really well, because if you're stuck, someone else might have another source of knowledge or perception, and then it's really good.
Yeah, I can see that one working really well. Like, I've not finished it. I only got a bit of the way through, but like, that's sort of just hashing out ideas of what could have happened.
Yeah, I sort of lucked my way through, like, accidentally without getting a piece of information, because I missed like one tiny, like, yet crucial piece of information. But I still, like, got it right just because of like some other weird line of logic I went my way down. But
You just sensed the correct answer.
yeah, or like I got myself, like, I think it was like between three people, and I just like got it right by coincidence.
You can definitely guess at some point. At some point, you can definitely. It's a tactic to guess.
Yeah.
There is
another game. Go ahead.
I learned recently that you can play Age of Empires 2 with multiple players controlling the same civilization. And like, I'm not a good Age of Empires 2 player. Like, I can do all right against computer, but against other players, I'd suck, frankly. And so I really like the idea of like, okay, this player's going to do economy stuff, and that's it. And this one's going to micromanage the armies and that sort of thing. Which I think is a cool, fun way of doing it.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
really wild.
Cool.
I've never thought of that like being a thing in an RTS, which seems there's there's that weird thing, like the I think it was the PlayStation ports of like the Final Fantasy games where they had technically had a multiplayer mode.
Really?
I think it was like the Chronicles or Anthologies is what they were called. I think like so basically like, I would set some of my characters to be other players. So like the second player would control like you're Terra and Locke and I'm Sabin and Edgar. And I don't know why you would do it, but if you and a friend wanted to sit around and play Final Fantasy VI together and you each controlled a couple different characters, you could.
Yeah, can see that working out. With my partner, I played several single-player games that we could play together. So The Witness, which is a puzzle game, worked really well, especially for puzzle games if you have more than one person, because someone may have a huge fatigue for a kind of puzzle or a specific puzzle, and the other person can pick up the slack. And I don't think I would have finished that game if not for her. Like,
Yeah, and there is. I imagine there is like a ton of like. Now that they are modifying everything, I'm sure there's like multiple like multiplayer types that are just like hacked in that I don't even realize exist. Don't knock it, it's fun. Yes, I bet it is fun, honestly. Like, I think just playing games with other people is a fun thing to do. And I highly encourage finding ways to just, like, weirdly play games together.
It's funny, like, I always grew up playing mostly single-player games. Like, I lived in my kind of, like, peak gamer years.
Yeah.
I had a terrible internet connection and I lived in the middle of nowhere. And so, like, I've only really come into playing multiplayer games in the last couple of years. And it's like, oh my god, mind blown. Games are fun with more than one person, you know?
Yeah. I was looking up the specifics of those Final Fantasy multiplayers. Apparently, they're also in the SNES versions, but apparently in 6, if you're using blitzes, you can, like, it just accepts both controllers' blitz commands. So if I'm player 1 and player 2 is playing Sabin, player 1's blitz inputs also will just screw it up if I'm trying to do them. That's also a very weird thing. Man, those blitz commands are weird. Like, why? Whose idea is like?
I didn't use him too much.
When I first got the game as a child, I did not understand fighting games. I remember having the same problem with like the Ninja Turtles fighting game, where I just like didn't understand how fighting games worked.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had no concept of the quarter circle. But now when I went back later after I understood, after I grew up and got a fight stick and did all these things, I was like, oh, wait, Sabin is awesome because I can do quarter circles and half circles.
For me, it was even worse because we would go to the arcade, right?
Yeah.
And at least in Portuguese, I don't know how it is in Spanish, but in Portuguese, instead of quarter circle, we call them Cs. So, but if you look at a C, the C starts at the top, goes to the left, and goes to the right. But we would call it like, oh, it's quarter C, it's half C. Half C is a quarter circle.
Yeah.
So it would try to go from like the top to the left and jump backwards instead of doing like the dragon punch, right? The down forward.
Yeah.
And that was extremely confusing.
Yeah, fighting games have a lot of like really. There probably feels like one of the weirdest genres, just like a lot of really accepted built-in terminology that have become really commonplace that you just have to like understand. And there's like, listen, I guess it all goes back to Street Fighter 2. And we all
DP nowadays, like it's gonna be down forward, right? It's gonna be the
right,
circle forward.
Right. Yes. How weird that you're like other games have like, who knows that means Dragon Punch, but people understand what the motion is, whether they know it means Dragon Punch or not. But you tell someone, hey, you just do the DP motion. And they're like, ah, yes, forward quarter circle. I know what that means. But
See, like, I think there's a couple of fighting games I actually like to play. Not being like a fighting game player, I frankly suck at them. And like the last one, I like stuff like Nidhogg where it's really kind of refined. You have very little you can do, but you can master that quite quickly, and that's that. But also, like, has anyone played Tory Bash?
Nope. What is it? Let me check it out.
Wait.
So Tory
No, that's a
Bash
really
is
complicated one, right?
It's a fighting game where you control muscle groups.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, it's like
And
Flop, the
it's-
fighting game.
Yeah, I think it predates Quap, but it's not as
Oh, no way.
it's not as like slapstick. Like you have a lot more fine control. You can actually do incredibly like complicated maneuvers with it, and it's like I think it's like you get like 3 or 5 second turns,
Yeah. Like it's.
and that's it.
Yeah. Like
And
you set up like what your motions are, right?
yeah, exactly. It's like okay, like this turn I'm like moving my shoulders back. Next turn, dropping my knees, swinging an arm up. It's like it's comment in the chat. It's like real time strategy, like choreographing dances or fights or something. And yeah, Tory Bash Whip. That's a great game.
Tory Bash still going strong.
It's still going.
It seems like it. Latest update, May 7th, 2021.
Oh my god.
Nicalis has sunk their teeth into him. Those guys. Ugh. Nicalis. I guess if you can get money, but pour one out for fucking Studio Pixel, you know. But yeah, that is wow. Sorry,
What's your opinion on Nidhogg 2? I played Nidhogg 1. I really liked it. And then the second one looks very different, right? And I haven't even tried. And I imagine this is a story that a lot of people haven't done.
I've not played Nidhogg 2. I mean Nidhogg 1, I played it at a few like local games events and I don't actually own it, so it's my enjoyment of it is purely kind of situational and like there's a bunch of people hanging out and there's some beers and that's
Yeah.
the only context I have played. Oh wow, Nidhogg 2 does look really different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't seen it
All
before?
that
Yeah, it's the
minimalism
same.
is gone.
Yeah,
It's completely different.
at first I'm like, this is weird, but I turned around to like the weird grossness and I kind of like it, but also at the same time it has new weapons. I'm like, it doesn't really add. I mean, when we played the original Nidhogg, we kind of always went back to the default stage anyway, like that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a very pure thing that it feels like Nidhogg is a perfect example of like video game creep where you need to like add shit to make it a video game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like
I think the best video games is when you remove shit.
Yeah. I feel like Nidhogg 1 Chandelier Stage is really all you need, and like that is pure, like that is a full package in and of itself.
I agree. Wow, looking at Nidhogg 2, you gotta have real courage to get a game that was successful, that had a very recognizable look,
Yeah.
and then go in the completely opposite direction.
I love it.
Us visually looking at screenshots, like there's so much going on. I don't know. I mean, I respect it.
Yeah.
I respect it. I don't like it, but I respect it.
You know, this is my game. It looks like this, but fuck that. I'm just gonna make it look different.
Right.
Like,
Do you really need to make the same thing over and over again? Video games aren't software, you know. I
agree there. I don't think they are. As a software developer, they're not software.
Yeah, but they're often treated very much as software. There's like, here's our next iteration, and now has the guy can hold 2 guns now.
we now have even more legally licensed weapons from the U.S. military.
Yes.
Which is actually something that not the military weapon stuff. Fuck that. I miss the days where games had a finality to them. So you would play, let's say, Final Fantasy VI. Whatever bugs there are forever, right? You have the gold build. Maybe you have the PAL, the US, and the JP version, but that's it, right? You can play the game without fear or anxiety that it's just gonna change completely or get things added, and your experience, your first experience won't be in the best experience. I think I felt this a lot in the last year with a bunch of CRPGs that have released, like, let's say Wasteland 3. I'm like, it's gonna get changed. I'm gonna wait, right? And I miss the days where that wasn't the case. Here's a game. It's done. Play it from day one, and it's the game.
Yeah, I mean,
like there was, someone said about like, what's your favorite cult game? And I've been thinking again recently about Eternal Darkness, which is one of just 4 games I had on the GameCube.
ooh.
And like, there is just
That is very cool. That is a good example.
that is it. But it was really good.
Do you remember the other 3?
So there were four games I had on GameCube. I had Smash Bros. Maybe, because obviously I did. I had Eternal Darkness. I had Medal of Honor Rising Sun.
Ooh.
And I had the Die Hard video game, which is quite possibly one of the worst video games I've ever played.
Oh, like the movie?
The game.
That sounds awful.
Oh, I have a lot.
Fucking bad.
I'm looking at this, and I have a lot more games. I was like, how many games do I have on GameCube? It's actually a bit more. But, I mean, a lot of these things... what do I have?
Die Hard game.
I do. Okay, I have Eternal Darkness, and I have Smash Brothers, but I don't have the Die Hard game, and I don't have Medal of Honor. I do have Odama. And
Why does this look like a first-person GTA clone?
which one?
Die Hard Vendetta on the game.
I mean, it's like a first-person shooter, but it's just like generic shooty video game. That is it. That's all it is. But like, it has an auto aim which removes all necessity to ever aim, where you can turn it off, and then it is the most difficult game to aim in. And so it's like there is no satisfying way to play it.
YouTube video here that I'm looking, right? And the description is, this was a cheap $3 buy for me. And overall, it's lacking, but not terrible. In fact, it's sometimes, and then it stops. It doesn't continue the sentence. Oh, never mind. I'm stupid. I just show less, show more. But let's pretend that that's what it said. Let's pretend that that's what it said.
That's a lot funnier.
It's sometimes.
No, I have like a love for bad games like that. Well, not like that. Not like mediocre games that like.
What's your favorite bad game then? What's your favorite like? Oh, I know this is bad, but I enjoy it.
Maybe like. Is Phantasmagoria 2 bad? Because I love it, but.
I mean, it tried something.
Yeah, that's what
I think, that's like. I've been like ranting on about like how I really like 7 out of 10 games.
Yeah.
Lately, and like I think there's a difference in bad games where it's like it's messy, but it's kind of got a soul and it's trying something, versus like it's bad and it's not even doing anything interesting and it's like just the most generic video game.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's what. That's. I mean, I play as someone who plays a lot of games. For instance, for like a submission aspect, I've come across a lot of games that are both not interesting, and it's like, I think, who is this for? It's not for you. It's clearly not for anyone else. Like, why? Like, it doesn't look like any person made this game with any kind of intent, you know?
Well, sometimes making a game is the activity itself, you know?
Yeah.
Like just the accomplishment of having made the game.
But like
meditation.
Yeah, it's always complicated. It's like it doesn't seem like I don't know what the person was trying to express, and I think that's where you come across like those when companies do that same thing. That's when you get games that are bad, but like
big budget bad.
Right, and that don't try anything. Also, if you look at issue 16 of Indiepocalypse, there's a good write-up of The Quiet Man, which is also I have a soft spot for. It's if you would like to play a bad version of The Bouncer with no audio in it, The Quiet Man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't.
Rating 5 out of 10 on Steam.
Yeah, it's a real.
All reviews mostly negative.
Yeah.
Link that in the chat.
I love mostly negative stuff. or like I think there. I love sloppiness at tries, like you were saying. There's like I infinitely prefer something that's like messy, but like is trying for something, and then something that is like perfectly polished, but has like no voice to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, that is my last game that I did on a game jam because I ran out of time to do the main mechanic.
Yeah.
So it's polished, but it fucking does nothing. I had to overcome the feeling that like, okay, this is the shittiest game I've ever put out. I
Yeah.
did it. But I still wanted. I almost didn't submit with the game completely done by the end of the jam because it's just like this does nothing to anyone. Like it's
Right.
not. It's just an exercise in like doing a small polished game.
Yeah. I think not every artist like publishes all their sketch, like brings all their sketches to galleries. Sometimes something is just like, yeah, I tried, and then I'm not satisfied. That's fine. I think that's perfectly fine. I think more people need to just like try shorter things and be like, I went for something, didn't work, not happy with it. I'll forget about it and delete it and never think about it again.
For sure. I think like 90, I would say 99 of all video games that got started being made never got finished. I think 99 is way too low, actually. I would make it even higher.
I'm reminded of like in my old bands when we were writing songs, we tried to we did these couple of things where we were like, okay, we're gonna just make a ton of songs really quickly in a day. And I like the kind of philosophy that like if you imagine your lifetime of work, you're gonna get like X amount of I don't know, songs, games or whatever that are gonna be bad. So what if you just get all of the bad ones out in advance in a block?
Yeah.
Well, that's
okay.
practice, right?
I'm gonna make the next 5 years worth of bad shit I make, but I'm gonna make it all in this 1 week, and then kind of free up my schedule for the rest. Obviously, it doesn't actually work like that, but I like the idea that it would.
Right. I mean,
I think it does.
I think it works, and it teaches you to learn to accept that you make bad stuff sometimes.
And to do it right. The biggest challenge to creation endeavors is being afraid to fail or do something bad. Like
Yeah.
I think that's number one thing that makes so things are not made.
Yeah.
You probably learn more from making 10 bad games than one good one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to be learned from bad. There's a lot to be learned from like bad things, bad in heavy quotations. I'm sure there's a lot to glean from a 6-hour documentary where they talk about motion over a still image that I can't stop thinking about.
The thing about the Brain documentary is that there is actually some sincerely good advice in it.
Yeah, I bet there is. Like, I love sincere. There's a beauty to like sincere outsiders. And like,
I'm so done with like irony, culture, like, yeah. I love sincerity, and if that sincerity makes it a bad thing, then so be it.
Right. Here's the thing. Irony is kind of like irony is just like a shield to pretend that you don't like Neil Breen movies when really you do. You just don't like them for the intended concept, for like the intended purpose. You like them for like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly think they're probably better than like. I would rather watch a Neil Breen film than a Marvel film. Like,
listen,
I
would any day of the week. I would 100%. Listen, I have seen a few of them, and even by like directors that I enjoyed. Like, I saw that last Thor movie, and I like Taika Waititi, but you know what? I'd probably watch Fateful Findings again before I watched that Thor movie again.
Have you seen Twisted Pair?
I have not. Quarantine has really, really brought a damper on the Breen verse.
Twisted Pair was an experience. I think that was my favorite Breen.
Is that the one?
It was just.
Is that the one where he eats tuna out of a car and he has a satellite, or is that a different one?
I know he has a twin brother with a glued-on beard.
Okay.
But it is. Yeah, no, I don't want to spoil anything, but also like
No.
I could say stuff and it would just not sound
No,
like it
like
happened.
yeah, exactly. Like try to describe the ending of Fateful Findings to someone where he's hacked into the government secrets and exposed them all. And then there's the sniper and he kills him with his psychic powers or something.
Hey, is there a video game maker who does the same sort of thing where it's like, I write, produce, and direct these video games, and I star in them as the main character? Like, is there a video game
I don't
person
know.
who does that?
Listen, I have thought about
The video
like
version of The Room.
right, like
There should be. There isn't.
I've people talk a lot about what is the Citizen Kane of video games sometimes, but now I'm wondering, you know,
What's the fateful findings of video games?
exactly. What is? Yeah, we need. Like, I think I saw as I was posting the message about this on Twitter, I saw someone talk about like, what if cinematic games actually like looked like movies that had strong that took strong cinematographic choices, which cinematic in video games just means like you're pretending to be a
Recording a third of the screen and you're
Right.
lowering your FPS.
right. You're pretending to be prestige television or something. You're The Last of Us, where you're very serious about topics or something. When you're not like, well, I don't remember all of them. One of the things was like Suspiria was one of their images, and that thing kind of just like whatever, the whole Giallo movement, I forget which it is, just like goes for it. What is the Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters of video games?
What's the elephant of video games?
Yeah, what is this? Video games I think lack so much compared to like what other mediums have.
Like, even not 20 years ago, but like 30 years ago, putting pixels on the screen was an achievement.
Yeah.
It was just fucking hard, right?
I guess it's just that's why I like to say like, well, games are still so new. They haven't like gotten time to really like get into artistic expression real thoroughly and get really self-indulgent, and there's still like, I think because like there's still like such a tech domination within the scene that
I think also what happened with video games is that it's like that kid who grew up with too much money sometimes.
right, yeah,
Because it's a media that is already the largest media and it is the youngest one, but because he grew up with in the tech boom and the internet and all of that, right? Where books, I don't know, people writing books when, I don't know, money didn't fucking exist or something.
yeah. It's all a whole I feel like maybe like our whole auteur move. I mean, there are people doing the work, and there have always been people doing like avant work in games, you know. But there just isn't much of a focus on it. There isn't like a large collective scene around it, which will take time, I think. Like, it'll be a long, arduous process to cultivate that. Part of what I've been trying to do, to some extent.
I think they exist. It's a visibility problem in a way. Because
Yeah.
it's very hard to. There's so much, and this doesn't come just to video games, right? Because if video games were all there were, I think there would still be visibility problems. And video games are competing with music and TV shows and movies and working 60 hours a week to survive. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So
But even within those other mediums, I think would be not very hard pressed to find someone who only listens to only listens to independent music, or their only streaming service is the Criterion Channel. And that's like there are these large companies and these large like cultures of supporting these kinds of things, and even then it's very easy to be like, well, Criterion is basic stuff, you know. You need to go deeper if you want the real stuff. But anyway, I'm going on about art, which is subjective, and as it is anyway, and it's very easy to get trapped into accidentally speaking from upon high, declaring what art is, and I don't feel like doing that. Anyway, I'm going to become
the Joker.
Oh shit! I'm going to become the. No, as mentioned on this as mentioned previously on this show itself, my form of Jokerification is, I have thought of it as joining the Black Parade.
I like that.
As this year, I have gotten very into the Black Parade. It is, I don't know how or why this year, but I'm like, yes, I do love this album through and through.
I mean, it's sincere, isn't it?
Yes,
like,
it is.
It was like at the time, because like I was the perfect time for that to release.
Yeah.
Like in my school emo phase.
I should have been, but listen, toxic masculinity and a whole bunch of other stuff can really, really, really poison that emo well for a young boy in high school.
I mean, it's like before everyone started throwing cringe around on Twitter as a term. Like Black Parade was cringe at the time.
Oh, it's still cringe, really, but I love it.
But it whips, it's great.
Yeah, listen, I came across it because RIP Giant Bomb, Janet Choa of the site, was talking about, I can't remember if he got it from somewhere else or if he posited the idea himself, but he said that Welcome to the Black Parade is Millennial Bohemian Rhapsody. And I was like, let me see this claim. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I see it. And then I decided
Or is American Idiot?
Okay, so I grew up listening to American Idiot because Green Day didn't touch upon that whole. Somehow Green Day was not technically emo, so it escaped that whole issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, well, I'll compare the two because I thought that's neat. That's a thought exercise that I have on myself. It's the kind of thing you would do for a podcast, but instead you just do it for your own fun and enjoyment. And they have the same producer? I didn't know that.
I feel like I did know that, but also I'm now going like, what did they? So maybe I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it came out a couple years apart. So I decided to listen to it back to back. And my opinion is that American Idiot is it feels like it's way more radio rock, first off. And it feels like a rock band making a concept album. And
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. But the Black Parade feels like, here's some theater kids and they're 200% on their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just
the goth version of the same album.
Yeah, and they are going all out, and it feels way more sincere and way more enjoyable, and I really like it. It's very good. That's my hot take on the Black Parade in 2021. It's a good album.
A bold take.
I don't know if that's a bold take or a non-bold take, but it's my take, and I'm sticking by it. Andrew Lloyd Webber was on TikTok talking about that opening note, and I am of a firm belief that Andrew Lloyd Webber is 100% a huge fan of that album. It seems like his thing 100 through and through. It seems like something he would make in his younger days.
Yeah, I can believe that.
It seems like this is an alternate history version of Jesus Christ Superstar is the Black Parade.
Mm.
But anyway, that's my weird divergence into the Black Parade. Once again, as I keep bringing it up because I can't stop. My current repeat albums are that and Ska Dream. So I guess the quarantine has got me into ska and gotten me into the Black Parade.
Black and white.
I've had Dark Side of the Moon on my car, stuck in the CD player for a year now, I think.
It's funny you mentioned Dark Side of the Moon because when I was working on when I work on the Garth Marenghi game, I was like, what's a good album? And for some reason, Dark Side of the Moon struck me as a real Garth Marenghi's Dark Place kind of an album. So I've actually been listening to that a lot more. And man, the opening line to Time is one of my absolute favorite opening lines, like delivery in like putting that down full stop. I love it when he says, I'm not even going to try to sing it like he does because it's too good at it. When he says, ticking away the moments to make it a dull day, and it just rips in there. Big fan.
I associate my car a lot with that album because first time I turned it on, it wasn't a random radio and Money was playing. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my first album.
Yeah.
And then I happen to have the physical album, and my car is so old and shitty that it just has a CD player.
Yeah.
I had to use the CDs, so that's why it has the CD. But the radio also dies too much if I put like on reverse or something. So to reach the ending of the album, it has to be, I either have to remember where it stopped or I have not to reverse for a long while. And yeah, I made a game about this. One of my game jam games is made. It's called Leica. It's about a shitty car that you try to keep it alive. That was the theme of the jam.
Perfect.
But anyway, the ending of the album is actually my favorite part. I think it's Eclipse or Brain Damage.
Yeah.
Like that's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, sometimes I've been getting more into, like, as a kid who was into, classic rock. I kind of swore it off when I hit my college years and bought my Arcade Fire album and got into indie shit. But I've been dipping back in here and there to see, like, what if this is good? What if this is bad? And what if this is, like, sometimes classics are classics for a reason,
There is do you know Big Star?
I do know Big Star, yeah.
That is I feel that's a good crossover between kind of like sort of classic rock with indie rock aesthetics.
1 second before Jorge has to leave. Before you go, would you like to plugs, Jorge, before you leave?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I have to go now.
No, that's fine. People,
I feel a bit rude right now.
Before you go, what are your plugs?
Am I sorry?
Where can people find you on the internet? Where can they find their games?
I'm sorry. They can find me on each, like Arroz Pegado. It's ARROZPGAO. Sorry, and also Twitter FDEZ Perez Jorge. And that's it, I think.
Perfect.
Very much, but I'm not very active, I must admit.
No, that's fine. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not very active either. And
thank you for having me here. I was loving the music conversation, but I have to go now. Sorry.
No, thank you for being here. I'm going to turn off your picture so people know you're gone now. But thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Yep,
it's been great and great.
Right. Perfect.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Take care. Thank you. Bye. See ya.
Gone. Wait, now what were you saying?
I was just saying Big Star.
Oh yes, Big Star. Yes.
Crossover classic rock / indie rock style.
Yes,
Also, I'm thinking now, like, there's a thing about car albums, isn't there? Like an album that is just a good car album.
Yeah,
there is.
And it's like a context that can change an album that you like just on its own. You're like, yeah, this is alright. And in the car, it's just, this is a good album. I think I've always kind of been a Flaming Lips fan, but I had the Soft Bulletin in my car for like 2 years straight.
Yeah.
And that's a very good car album, I think.
Yes, I got, was it a couple of years ago or it must have been, okay, I'm trying to think of quarantines throwing off my number of years, so it must have been like 2 years ago. I got very into the Soft Bulletin.
Mm-hmm.
And like actually to the point where when I was also reading comics and I was reading the Hunter while I was listening to a lot of the Soft Bulletin, so now the two are inextricably linked forever in my brain, which is I guess good for them and good for me. Flaming Lips are old man psychedelia or something. I get it, but I like the Flaming Lips.
Yeah, I mean, I like the singer is shit, and a lot of the music is kind of self-recorded, and so it's a bit rough. But
Yeah,
it's great. Like it doesn't sound like another band, really.
yeah,
And I still want to do a listening party for Zyreka with the like. Do you know Zyreka?
yeah. With like the
with
four
like,
speakers.
fucking 4 CD players at once, sort of thing. Syncing them up with your friends and all pressing play at once. Like, I still want to do a listening party for that.
Yeah, listen, I respect the hell out of stuff like that. Just like take your weird swings, be the weird art person that you want to be.
What if we released our video game on 4 different games at once that you all had to sync together?
Yeah. Right, because there already are like you can play like synchronized versions of like how they have those hacks so you can play like Zelda randomizer with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you could do that. Like, I mean, nothing's impossible. Listen, that's definitely too ambitious and something I could ever make. I don't have what you consider to be programming skills. Oh.
There's programming and there's like being able to bodge together something from scraps of code you find on the internet. Like,
right. There is copy and paste is the programmer's best friend.
Yeah.
Semi-related to Big Star, I will say, the official stance of Indiepocalypse is that I believe, unless I can think otherwise, that I believe the greatest rock and roll song is Alex Chilton by The Replacements. And I've thought about that for a long time.
I don't know that one.
And I think it may be the best rock and roll song. I think it has everything that you need. It's singing about things that you like, which is in that case is Alex Chilton. It has like a solo that's like indulgent enough, but not too overly indulgent. I've come in later life that I realized I don't like solos that are like they're 3.5 minutes long songs that also just have an overindulgent solo in them. Like it doesn't feel like it's part of the song.
Mm. What is your stance on key changes?
I would say good. Or
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
no hardline stance.
Some people have a stance on key changes where they're like, none of this.
But I
think they're very good.
I have very broad music taste, so like a key change probably sounds very normal to like some of the weird discordant stuff I've listened to in my life. So a key change would sound like a perfectly reasonable melody or something to like once you've gone down the noise hole, there's no escaping it.
You know what? Lockdown got me into 100 gex and I haven't looked back.
100 gex is normcore. What are you people talking about?
Yeah.
No, I remember. Yes. No, but
Can't
no.
really into fucking black MIDI or whatever.
No, the 100 gex is good. I remember maybe I'll go back to them and be like, this is really good. But I listened to Money Trees. And I'm like, this is good. This is good stuff. I'm recently downloaded off this like defunct label, Fortune 500, and they were like, I think they did a lot of like vaporwave, whatever wave music, sailor wave, and I'm been playing a lot of that. I'm like, remember vaporwave, everyone? Remember that?
Vaporwave. Yeah, it's not as good though, is it?
No.
The zeitgeist is gone.
Yeah. But I feel like dream pop, city pop style has like lived on, which I kind of like because it's also like very, in a way, like very shoegaze adjacent. I like shoegaze.
I always liked shoegaze in theory, but like, I don't know. I like Loveless. Loveless is a great depression album for lying on the floor listening to. But like, I don't know. I always kind of wanted to find a good shoegaze band. I never quite did.
Yeah, I think because like with something, there's something like that. I think it runs into like the ska problem, the great ska problem, which is sometimes it can feel very samey.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how does a Lush stand out from a My Bloody Valentine? Stand out from like any number of things. I would say the Velt, VELDT, is like funk shoegaze.
That's an interesting combination.
Or something like that. It's very good. I'm a very big supporter of the Veld, or however you say that. Veld. Yeah, it's one of those words that it was the name of an area in Final Fantasy VI, and I didn't know how to say it back then, and I still don't know how to say it now, here in 2021. And I refuse to learn. I'll just clumsily say it, but you hopefully assume that people get what I'm saying. They understand. Okay, now this is going too far into my we've crested 3 hours, and we're getting into my self-indulgent let's trick people into talking about music podcast.
Hey, I mean, I would talk about music for hours. Like,
yeah,
I miss being in music.
Yeah, yes, I've missed talking. I love music. I love to talk about it. And then one of these days, one of my podcasts I want to secretly, what I want to do as like a concept podcast is I want to review, like, or not review, I want to rank all of the musical references from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure from beginning to end. Going through,
well, like this is the best song, or this is the best reference to a song?
It would be like, because sometimes they just reference songs, but sometimes they just reference like artists. So it's like starting with, I think, like number one, starting with Dio, and we like, okay, so Dio starts off at number one, but then like Dire Straits comes in. Like, well, how is Dio better than Dire Straits? Yes, Dio's better than Dire Straits. And then just going all the way through until we have a full, because sometimes they're just songs. Cause I think there's one that's called like Purple Haze, which would be like, its entry on the list would just be the song Purple Haze. But it would just be that. It would be going through the albums, the artists, and the songs referenced within the series and ranking them all. And
it's a hell of a podcast.
You already know that the top one's going to be David Bowie, because David Bowie.
Wait, does he reference? Where's David Bowie?
Even like JoJo, but I think it's impossible not to reference David Bowie.
No, I don't think he references David Bowie at all.
Real? Okay.
I don't think so. At least it's not one
I mean, isn't there a fucking... There's that, like, pink cat character who looks like Bowie.
Oh, yeah, there's that guy. The guy, yeah. I'm forgetting his name now. Because it's
literally called Bowie.
No, it's called... I'm forgetting because all I can think of is Sheer Heart Attack, which is not Sheer Heart Attack. We're going to be trapped in this hole forever. But anyway, I'll look that up. Bowie, JoJo. That's not what I should. I mean, we'd stand Radiohead.
Kira's appearance is based off that of David Bowie.
Yeah, I knew that part. This is like a weird novel or something. Wait, what? What is this character? Like, what is this from?
I don't know. Like, I've seen him in, like, most of my JoJo knowledge is from Twitter. Like, yeah. I have not watched enough of it, but I've seen this guy around. I'm like, I conceptually know he exists.
That's Yoshikage Kira. He is exceptional. Like, he is top shelf, like, shonen antagonist. He's a big fan of him, honestly. And it's not only because he looks like David Bowie. He just wants to live a quiet life. And I like him. But I'm so messed up with this part because now I'm like really done. But I'm really upset that I can't remember this name. It's bothering me, but I know it's not. Where is this? Powers stand. Now I'm looking at. Now because of you, I'm on fandoms.com.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I have to navigate through these 10 million ads in order to.
Right? Yeah. Or like. I think there's a limit. You know how there's a...
Oh, it's Killer Queen. That's what it was. It was Killer Queen. Yeah, his stand is called Killer Queen. I was so close with Sheer Heart Attack, though that's part of it. I should have been able to make that leap. Anyway, I think the real answer is, off the ones at the top of my head, I think of all the ones I remember, I think the real winner is King Crimson. I don't know their entire discography through and through, but I really love In the Core of the Crimson King. It's self-indulgent prog that I can respect and get down with. But anyway, I was as I was trying to do initially. We're gonna wind this down.
No better way to bring down an evening than a prog record.
Yes. Listen, prog is not for everybody. Not everyone needs to listen to 9-minute long songs that kind of noodle around and they'd be like, well, the time signatures.
Some bands really will just think, what if we make an album about a swan?
Yeah, well, what if we just made albums and all the albums were about Ayn Rand? Oh. At least Neil Peart's a good drummer, I guess.
The best.
But anyway, if I go down I don't know if it's a good first recommendation for prog holes. I'm not a prog expert, but I do. I think, to be fair, In the Core of the Crimson King is kind of like proto-prog or something. It's like sometimes feels more like jazz adjacent than what true prog is thought of.
It's like, I think it's like kind of like a bit, it's more experimental than like kind of prog settles into a rut almost. Yeah. Where it's like you can kind of guess the elements of a prog song.
Yeah.
The Crimson King is kind of, it's got more stuff going on.
Yeah, it's the benefit of being like very early. It's like when I've said it before. Okay, that's the weird thing about this show is like having conversations with people the first time, but realizing that people listening have probably heard these conversations. So like the idea of like that radio podcasting of not repeating yourself when you're not repeating yourself to the audience, but still wanting to tell strangers things that you haven't told them before. Which is Night of the Living Dead. It feels extremely fresh, a fresh take on the zombie genre. Because it was unburdened by the zombie genre. But yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I imagine the same is true for like In the Core of the Crimson King, being that like that was like in the 60s. And prog didn't really hit its stride until like the 80s or the late 70s.
70s into 80s, yeah.
So, like, it's his own thing. Even if you just listen to, like, 21st Century Schizoid Man, it's like, it's a real ride. And you go, that's where that Kanye sample is from.
That's the end result for a lot of bands.
Yeah. I try.
This is that sample.
Yes. I wonder how many, when I was listening to Dark Side of the Moon, I was listening. Money, I think, is what you would call, in modern days, I believe it was referred to as a vibe.
Yeah.
Money is like a true vibe, and I've like that bass line's gotta be sampled like endlessly or something. It's just like so killer.
Boom, 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 boom.
Exactly. It's yeah, it's absolutely, I love it. I also watched a very long video essay. I love bad criticism. I love criticisms of bad criticism. So I love an hour-long take of Doug Walker's The Wall.
Oh god.
Like someone's hour-long criticism of it. I've been thinking a lot about how Doug Walker's still around. It's very weird. And I feel like people have gotten back into that whole thing in like this real roundabout way, and it's very funny.
I missed out on it the first time around, so I'm like blissfully unaware of his stuff. And I keep being revealed, like, how have you heard about this whole fucking film he did?
It's a whole disaster. I was like, came across some of it, like, even like when I was like watching that stuff, I very much got sick of his stuff even. And there were like some ancillary people. I was like, this person seems like they're doing interesting reviews of comic books. But most of that site was like watching bad things and being like, this thing is bad. It wasn't that funny. Whatever, the bad credit card rules. That movie is probably better than... I don't know about those bad movies, like those Batman Schumacher movies, whether they're like... if there's enough good stuff in between like all the bad stuff to like justify watching them. But I will say
With nipple armor.
Yeah. But
as someone who grew up in the 90s, I don't think so.
But I will say Batman 66 is awesome. And I think we need a little bit more of that back. Like, I think because I grew up in the era of increasingly try-hard, edgy Batman.
It's what's the word we've been using before? A sincere one. We miss
Yeah.
the sincere.
I miss the goofy.
It's like grimdark.
Yes.
Grimdark Batman.
What's his name?
I can't.
Like, in my mind, it was always like that show was like campy and goofy, and not just like an intentionally well-written show. Like that was being funny on purpose, and then I realized, that was a show that was being a comedy on purpose. It's not just like my mind is warped by age, and now it's funny looking at it 5 years later. That part where the Joker is like, if you were here, Batman, I give you such a pounding. And then it cuts to Batman on the phone right behind him. He's like, get pounding, Joker. And he's like, And listen, I'm going to... how can I find that? Right. That's... While we do our last plugs, I'm going to find Get Pounding Joker. Start pounding Joker. Thank you. Well, I can't hear this because I voice meter and all that, but I can download this video very quickly. But Morello, while I download these videos off of websites, what have you got to plug?
Twitter is usually easy to find me. Murillo Trigo, that's it. But m-trigo at itch.io as well, where I put most of my games. Don't play my latest game, it sucks. Play the light game, the one with the car.
Oh, you can say that over the phone, Batman, but if I had you... Oh, you can say that over the phone, Batman, but if I had you here, I'd pound you to a pulp!
Start pounding, Joker.
Oh, you...
Anyway, Frey, what have you got to plug?
I am also on Twitter. I am SPDRCSTL on Twitter, which is the word Spider Castle with all the vowels removed. I'm on itch.io at Communist Sister. The latest thing I released is just exactly the same thing I did for Indiepocalypse 15.
Yes.
So you could well just go and buy Indiepocalypse 15.
Yeah.
Or you can play Winter online there. But yeah, and there are many things on my itch.io page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Listen, I don't accidentally link to everybody's itch pages on the Indiepocalypse page. I have no issues with people just going and playing the games, often for free on everyone's itch pages. It's more like, it's nice if I get some money and the developers get some money, but it's also nice if people just play the games, and find the developers. It's curatorial work.
Curatorial work is a good name for it.
Yeah, I've been leaning more into the curation and preservation angle as I'm trying to find my angle for coverage. There was an article that's sitting around pending in the wind. I don't know what's happening to it. I don't know if it got posted and I got cut from it, or what happened, or if it got posted and they didn't use the word Indiepocalypse and the author didn't tell me about it and there was in no way referenced and it didn't increase traffic in any meaningful way, or what happened. But there is another writer who is like, I think this is cool, but I don't know how to fit it in. But anyway, I will say for my part, go to indiepocalypse.com, buy Indiepocalypse, buy Indiepocalypse 16. It just came out. There's good games in it. There's good games in all of them. You can buy whatever ones you want. If you sign up for the newsletter, indiepocalypse.com/newsletter, I've started dropping exclusive coupons in the Indiepocalypse newsletter. So if you are fast enough, you can get a new issue of Indiepocalypse from the newsletter for only $4.95 US. But that's limited to one person to raise excitement over the zines. Indiepocalypse.
Alternatively, go to support Indiepocalypse on Patreon.
Oh, Freya, you're so nice doing my plugs for me.
Yeah.
Yes, as Freya mentioned, indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. If you want to listen to this radio show like a week after, or like the following Monday, the $5 tier, the $15 tier, and the $25 tiers. $15 tier is just like, it's like you're buying the zine in month, except it's delivered to you. $25 tier means you get a printed copy of the zine delivered to you by me. They're cool, I think. The print quality.
The podcast archive on Patreon is great. I've been listening to them during work.
Thank you. I can never tell how these are, because I'm in them. But I enjoy having the conversations. I will say indiepocalypse.com/ no. This is pizzapranks.com/RPG. Actually, Indiepocalypse might work as well. Anyway, /RPG Maker, which is a I'm trying
to. This is your new project.
This is one of my side projects. This is unrelated to Indiepocalypse. Which is, I'm trying to make an RPG Maker Exquisite Corpse using the PS2 version of RPG Maker 2, where basically people would spend a month working on a game, then they would take the disc, take the memory card, and mail it to the next person. And that would just continue onwards. And that's it. I think it's interesting. There's also, if you are a contributor to Indiepocalypse, or really anyone, because this is the radio show, I can talk whatever we want in the radio show. I also want to make and also this RPG Maker thing is open to anybody. Like, it's not Indiepocalypse related. That link has a link to the sign up form. But if you're like, I really love the idea of this cooperative. I guess all Exquisite Corpses are cooperative, but I really like the idea of these. I love an exquisite corpse, but physical. I don't live in the U.S. and I don't want to modify my PlayStation 2, or I don't own a PlayStation 2. I'm also trying to do the same. I decided, because I knew the other one was so far away, I was like, what if I try to do it with Super Mario World? And each person makes their own level. But I didn't know if I wanted to make that public, because if it gets picked up by a site or anything, Nintendo's a real piece of shit about things, Sometimes.
Yeah, they really are.
So I've been keeping that on the down low until it's finished or something. I don't know. I think it's cool. So if you're interested, just ask me. Indiepocalypse@gmail.com. I can sling you that sign up sheet. Let's all learn lunar magic and make a weird. I mean, there are ROM hacks and no one's busting down Kaizo Mario and Grand Poo World and tell them to cease and desist. So I'm sure it's fine, but anyway, it's also a lot easier because it's digital and anyone can do it. But I think that's all my redirects, right? Let me go to Hover. I think I have them all. Hey, if you have an Amazon Prime, why not click that thing and give me $3 of Amazon bucks, right? I'm going to spend it on good stuff. I remember somebody said once, I forget who it was it the Catamites? They said, indie games is just everyone trading the same bitsy dollar back and forth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if we traded 20 bitsy dollars back and forth? That's Indiepocalypse. It's increasing that bitsy dollar. I'm injecting money into the bitsy dollar economy so that we may now...
Watch me spend the entire commission fund on the next, 5 issues of Indiepocalypse.
See? So we're just trading... Now we can trade 20 bitsy dollars back and forth. Take a little longer for PayPal to eat it all away. Yeah, I think that if you have other stuff you want to submit to the zine, basically if you want to submit comics to the zine or your own mini zines to the zine, if you enjoy Electric Zine Maker and want to submit your own one-page zines or comics to the zine, go to indiepocalypse.com/zine. Confusing name, but whatever. I couldn't think of anything else. Submit was taken by submitting. Oh, right, indiepocalypse.com/submit. Submit games to Indiepocalypse. That's it. I think I got them all. There's a Discord. I don't use it. Or if you're a contributor, you get secret access to the contributor channel, which is the one I might actually interact with more. But I've realized that I don't care for public forum style of social media as of late. But that's just me not wanting to be my approach to Twitter is would I say this on a talk show or a panel show? Then yes, that's the kind of conversation I'll have on here. People be too personal online,
Mm-hmm. You have to keep up that aura of mystique.
Yes, I love to keep up. I paint myself blue every morning in order to do such. I too have a lover that Marvel will never acknowledge.
Did I just make a Marvel reference by accident?
There's an X-Men.
Dirty.
Listen, I don't consider X-Men to be considered Marvel. I consider them to be their own thing, which is weird to say, but Chris Claremont left a long legacy. Anyway, I think the X-Men are cool. I know a lot of X-Men. Mystique is one of them. Anyway. We're going to end the show now. That was the end of the show. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Goodbye. That's the end.
Oh, no, I have to go back to studio mode. And go back to...
Thank you, Joker.
Thank you, Joker. That's a good close-off, honestly, to everybody. I think we should all say goodbye to each other right now, saying thank you, Joker.
Thank you, Joker.
Thank you, Joker.
Thank you, Joker.
I do... As a final statement, I think it rules and it sucks that Jigsaw Quotes went corporate.
Oh, they horse ebooked.
Yeah,
I
man.
believe it.
The internet used to be awesome.
Bear Stearns Bravo all over again.
I can't respect I don't respect anything on the internet anymore. I bet Joker's trick was working for Warner Brothers the whole time. Goodbye.